So,
I understand. Woohoo.
oh, well, now I can't say anything. Rats! That was a cackle.
Yeah, that's why I was like wondering which account it logged me in with, and I was like, oh, it's the work one, because that's usually the one that I stay logged into all day. I only have 3 different Zoom accounts. It's crazy.
I just have the one, and then I have Nancy's. I use occasionally.
Well, I have the one that's for work, and then I have my own, and then I have one for a club that I'm in. That I have the main account for that one because I do what Nancy's doing today and start all our Zoom meetings.
Yeah, well, we're using that for various things we belong to, so it's come in very handy.
Yeah.
But you one of the things my husband's involved with, mostly very elderly people, and that was a hoot to get them online the first time.
I bet that was interesting. So hi to the new people who've joined. Woohoo! I see some familiar faces and some
Kelly says that she can't unmute herself. I am muted. I came in.
Yeah, that's a setting that Nancy likes to set so people can't unmute themselves.
I know, but in this case, because it's a chat, we should not.
We should let people unmute themselves. Yeah.
I had set it to where you could unmute yourself. So yeah.
Yeah, sometimes it does weird things, but
Yeah, I must not have taken.
yeah.
I
I
just
did it again.
unmuted
Like
myself.
I'm just gonna look terrible. I'm just so dead.
Thanks, Nancy.
Hello.
I just didn't want you to talk, Ricky. That's all.
Yeah. Me either.
That's long-winded Canadians.
Yes.
Never met a long-winded Canadian.
Behind the closed door of a suburban house.
Oh,
So
sorry.
Now we talk all the time.
has it snowed yet in the Great White North?
Now you can see what he's missing now.
Aw.
He had like 10 minutes and first one leg came off and then the other leg came off. But he's looking at it. Toy.
We gave our dog a duck, and she disemboweled it and got the squeaker out. So
Yeah.
Well, he will eventually get the squeaker out. And he will disembowel it, but it's got little ropes on the sides. And if I say the word toy, he will run in here and wait for me so that I can come and play with him.
mm-hmm.
That sounds like my cats that come running at the sound of the container that has their cat treats in it. You just shake it and they'll come from wherever they are in the house.
They're smart.
Well,
that way.
they all come when I do that with the dog treats too. So
I don't know how cats can hear when they're dead asleep, but yeah, they seem to know that. They could be sound asleep. They won't hear that sound.
Oh, they always sleep with one ear open, didn't you know?
Oh, maybe that's it. Yeah.
And one eye open.
In case there's food.
In case there's food, right? Yeah.
Right.
Little critters to chase around the house.
So, Ricky, you said it's already snowing up there?
It has snowed a couple of times where we are. Yeah, we're not in what we call the snow belt. I'm in kind of close to Toronto.
Yeah.
So
more like Detroit. You're
Yeah.
about the same. I'm in Madison, Wisconsin, so it's about the same.
yeah, it depends. We get what's called the lake effect, where
Yeah.
we get a lot of snow because we're right attached to the Great Lakes. So it's kind of hit or miss, but we get a reasonable amount of snow, not like Quebec where they get snowed in feet and feet and feet. Here we get.
Right.
I
And it
know
was like,
a 4-letter word.
I think it was only 79 today. So, you know.
Yeah,
Oh,
I was a
I think
little
it got
chilly
up to
today.
36 here. Yeah, it's 36 right now.
Wow. Yeah, right now it says it is 68 outside. So
Yeah, it's about the same here. We're in
With
the
36 Fahrenheit.
We were just glad that the
Fahrenheit.
kids
Yes,
didn't have to wear
Fahrenheit.
their snowsuits
Wow.
for Halloween.
That's cold.
Yeah,
about-
I know. Isn't that funny how some Halloweens can be
Yeah,
more like Christmas?
it was weirdly warm at Halloween. It was bizarre. Wonderful.
I do have to do the conversions. I actually had a chart that I made when I did my first computer programming to go from centigrade to Fahrenheit, because I had a centigrade thermometer hanging out beside my dorm room. Appropriated from one of the laboratories.
Oh, I was wondering.
So I
In
don't think
Canada, we think in
technically every other
Fahrenheit.
way, but not that.
We
Pardon?
think in Fahrenheit for certain things.
Mhm.
Pool temperature is always measured in Fahrenheit.
Weird.
Yeah, right.
What about your ovens? Cooking ovens?
Again,
Centigrade.
we have it both, but we think in Fahrenheit for the most part. I would immediately go to Fahrenheit instructions.
Mhm.
Fevers, we tend to think in Fahrenheit, but weather, we think in centigrade.
Mhm. Well, hey, it's a mixture.
Right?
I
So-
prefer when I sew to sew in millimeters, because it's a heck of a lot more accurate.
do you
uh,
really? That's so
I really-
funny.
Well, I'm a chemist,
Okay.
I used to do a lot of sewing, and it was just more accurate. But for temperature, I kind of know what it is, but I have to look it up. And
Yeah.
the way with hurricanes coming through, they always do it in millibars, and I'm always converting it to PSI, excuse me, millimeters of mercury, because I think in millimeters of mercury. I don't think in millibars. So
You're not
anyhow,
counting atmospheres.
yeah, I was thinking atmospheres, but no, I don't really think in atmospheres either. So anybody else got snow?
Definitely not down here.
It's summer here.
Right, so where are you, Brenda, that you've got snow?
Michigan.
Michigan?
Yeah, that
Okay.
would do it. I would plan a trip now, but I would be afraid of what the weather would be like up north.
Yeah,
they're
I
supposed
haven't
to have-
seen snow in 13 years.
Where do you live, Candace?
Southern California.
Yeah, you wouldn't. And you
I
wouldn't
only see it if
really
I go
hot
visit
weather
it.
either. That's
So
Right.
yeah,
no
so
here
you
either.
sound like you're from Australia. So yeah, it is summer there, isn't it?
Yeah. It's like 30 degrees Celsius here.
No, I do know what that is. When you look at
Warm.
warm,
Very
and then
warm.
I have to go. The human body temperature is 37 degrees. Okay, yes, that's rather warm.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
gonna say I can never translate really quickly in my head. I always have to go look it up. So 90 something, huh? For Fahrenheit, is that what it is?
That's what I figure is
Yeah.
anything in the low 20s is probably pleasant in
Yeah.
Celsius.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I was gonna say, but you get it. A lot of it's what you get used to. Like today,
Yeah.
it was 80, so okay, I didn't need a jacket. But if it's only like 75, I'm cold. I've lived in Florida long enough that I'm putting a jacket on when it's 75 outside because it's cold. And I'm pretty sure all of you people who live where it snow would be going woohoo and running around in a bathing suit because it's 75.
Well, you know,
That's kind of
right.
like when I visited Cairo many years ago. It was 75. Our guide on our tour was wearing a wool skirt with a sweater and a jacket, wearing shorts and a t-shirt.
yeah.
I mean, every time, we would get off and then get on, the next stop, and she kept touching my arm. Okay. And I'm going, okay, well, maybe I'm just, she's just politely moving me. And finally, towards the, the end of our day, she said, "Aren't you cold?" That why you've been touching my arm? And she said, "Yeah, I'm touching to make sure to see if you're cold." I said, "No." I said, "Actually, this is quite pleasant. I mean, this was in March.
mm-hmm.
St. Louis in March can be," and they were fair, then, in Fahrenheit, I said it would be like in the 30s. And she's going, "Oh my gosh, I don't think I could survive if it got that cold.
Probably couldn't.
I don't
You
think I could
could.
survive if it was 110,
Yeah.
To tell you how it's been lately, I don't even bother to buy a coat anymore. I have a heavy
Oh.
it just doesn't get cold enough for a full coat anymore. I have one. I rarely wear it.
I don't visit the cold enough that to need one for that. I haven't had a proper, winter coat in years. So what I do when I go visit we make our, as we call it, the yearly trek to go visit the cold. We go to Alabama or Georgia. Okay. That we're not going for real cold.
Well, didn't you once go to Tennessee?
Yeah. One time we did go to the mountains. Yeah. So we'll go to North Alabama where it's in the mountains, and it does get a little bit colder up in the mountains. But so I just put on like 2 hoodies and a poncho that's made out of fleece. And so I've got layers, so I was like, it works, for
as much as I am in and out of a car all day long. It's a hoodie with a fleece, and that's it.
Yeah, because being all bundled up in a coat,
unless it's 0 or below, and then I'll put on the long johns.
Yeah,
I get cold at 72 degrees.
Yeah. You were talking about going to Cairo. I had gone to Salt Lake City. It's been a few years now, in February, because I'd been out to LA, and so I stopped in Salt Lake on my way back and visited my cousins. Now, they've lived in Utah almost their entire life, and I've lived mostly in Georgia or Florida. And so it was snowing and it was cold, and I've got my coat on. I still had a coat back then, and I've got a scarf and a hat and everything. I'm all bundled up, and my cousin is running around in his windbreaker.
Yeah.
I'm like, he goes, how can you be bundled up? And I'm like, how can you be in a windbreaker? I'd be freezing my butt off. I'm already freezing my butt off.
But it's all what you get used to.
I know, it's very weird about that. And everybody forgets that that's what happens, unless you've happened to either know a lot of people or have lived in different places. You kind of forget that you get used to your weather and everybody else gets used to their own. And then when you move around or visit the other weather, then, you're generally miserable if it's very different than what you're used to. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in Arizona, and you guys know it's hot here, but it was 46 degrees when I let my dog out this morning at 6, and it was 85 at 4.
You got that desert effect. I remember that.
Yeah.
Where there's just nothing to hold the heat. It gets real cold in the desert.
Where is it that you live, Kathleen?
I'm in Arrowhead Lakes. It's in Glendale, but if you think of Glendale, Arizona, it's not where you think.
Arizona. Okay.
Yeah.
I've been out in the deserty stuff enough to, it does get really weird with those big temperature fluctuations between.
Right. This is our great time of year because we can have the windows open at night and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But it is a big thing. I mean, I go out in the morning with my dog and it's cold.
It's chilly.
But then it's 85,
Yeah.
I used to live in China.
It's the dry heat. It's not humid heat. It's that dry heat. I like that stuff.
What were you going to say, Nikki?
85 is all right if it hits it at a peak, but it doesn't matter if it's wet or dry. When it's 120, it's
horrible. Yeah, I agree with that.
Because I was going to say sometimes
it's 90 at 6 a.m.
Yeah, the Florida in the summertime is like, walking into a warm, wet sponge, even at 4 o'clock in the morning. When you walk outside, it's just like,
right.
It's clammy. No. So what were you going to say about China, Ricky?
Oh, I used to live in Taiwan, and that was quite an adjustment coming from, Ontario, where it's cold.
Mm-hmm.
And it was such a humid heat, right? Which I'm sure many of you are used to down in the South, but we don't get that here ever, right? We're really, really temperate. And it was so bizarre because everybody would wear pants, and I was serving with a missionary, and her requirement was that women wear all pants all the time, right? Nothing short, no skin showing, nothing at the time. And I remember thinking, I'm going to die. I'm just going to die.
Just going to melt.
Find this white person's carcass on the street somewhere as I'm walking to the market. I mean, you do get used to it, but I remember the first 3 days, I genuinely thought I would die.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's funny. When I was 12, we moved from New York. I lived in Staten Island, New York, to Southern California. And we had moved at the end of August, because it's right, my parents kept us there until the end of summer, and then we started the new school year. And when we left, the last thing my mother packed and put in in the box that said first thing to be opened was the sheets from all the beds. Now, growing up in an old house without air conditioning, in fact, my brother and sister and I at that point were still sharing a room, and it was one big room with window fans if we were lucky. And so all you had was the sheets, bottom sheet, top sheet, and you rarely wore the top sheet because it was so warm. So we unpacked, and she made the beds. And we woke up in the middle of the night freezing. Because while it was 80 degrees in the daytime, but it cooled off. It went down to like 55, 60 because it wasn't humid heat. So it didn't retain the heat. And everyone's, we're like, Mom, we're cold. Where are the blankets?
It happened in my sister's house. I went out to visit her when this was my graduation gift from high school. And I got there and it was 80 degrees and she was laying on her bed. It's like, oh my gosh, this is the hottest I've ever been. They come from like 95 and 100. That night, the fog rolled in and I was freezing. So I had to go get a blanket. And she fussed at me because she had to open a new blanket for me.
Lenari, where you are living in Australia, I know Australia has a wild range of temperatures, right?
Yeah.
Where are you at? Are you Melbourne?
No, north of
That's
Brisbane.
the only Australian place I know. So sad to admit, but
North of Brisbane, so in Queensland, in the hottest part. We're close to the equator. So it gets very hot here. And we also get a lot of, we call them cyclones, you call them hurricanes, but it's
the same thing, but in reverse.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
It's the other
Hurricanes go one way, cyclones go the other way. That's the only difference. But we're in like where we get cyclones and big storms and those sorts of things as well. But yeah, widely different. We've got about 30 degrees today, and there was snow in like Tasmania a couple of days ago. So yeah, very different.
Wow.
Yeah, they had snow to
Summer. It's summer there.
Yes,
It's just coming on summer and it snowed.
But Tasmania is very similar to Canada in its sort of like geography. It's much closer to Antarctica. It gets all the Atlantic winds. It's really freezing cold. I've lived down there a long time, and it is.
I didn't
cold.
realize that.
Yeah, no, they'll get snow in the middle of summer to like 100 meters.
Wow.
Yeah, I love all the Christmas stuff from Australia because Santa's always at the beach instead of with snow.
With his sunscreen.
Santa in shorts, Santa in board shorts, So it's kind of handy for Florida because Florida feels more like Australia summer, than for Christmas. Yeah.
Yeah, so you'd be like us, that you look at everyone that has the big roast dinners and like, why? Why do you need that?
Yeah, it feels weird to do Christmas decorations in Florida with snowmen because that's not a thing that exists in Florida.
Right, same here. No snow ever.
Either.
We get it once in a blue moon and everybody gets really excited and we have multiple accidents on the roads. We just have sand. They don't put salt down, they put sand down. It's a real adventure.
They do salt and there's a chemical, and the chemical has beet juice in it.
Yes. Yeah.
Does it make everything red, or is it just the same chemical from beets, but not the color?
Right.
It's not the color; it's just the chemical, and it little bit. It's like corrosive to the vehicles.
Oh yeah, sugar. It would do the
And
same.
also to salt is really not good.
No,
to put in our soil. And
that's true too. And on our cars.
They don't do salt in Arizona either. Or in Colorado for that matter. I was a little surprised when I lived in Colorado that they didn't do salt there because they get a lot of snow there, but they don't. Anywhere in Australia, we don't salt any of the roads.
We use cedar.
And in some of our rural areas, they use hot cinders.
Oh, we use cedar.
Really?
Cedar chips, yeah.
Cedar chips make sense.
We'll learn something every day.
We use a lot of salt here.
We just have bumper cars here.
Does this soil end up really acidic?
I remember the bumper car thing from Atlanta. Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh
I just don't drive in it.
no. Oh.
And I had the joy of being able, since I was working part-time my last year of work, just to leave. It's like, see you guys. I'm not driving through that mess.
You gotta go see you. Bye. Yeah.
Bye.
So I'm in
So-
charge of booking the salting for our church because I work in the admin office. And we're always complaining that, the company that we pay to come and salt is using too much salt because it gets trapped all inside. And, you want to be conscientious of the environment and use the least amount of salt possible, right? To achieve the same.
Yeah,
outcome.
right.
But we lose our insurance liability if we do not let them salt to their discretion. So we have absolutely no recourse. with
Oh,
the
wow.
salt. There's nothing we can do.
Hmm.
Which just seems,
Mm.
I can't even be like, tell you what, you leave the bin, we'll do the salting. Nope, not insured then.
That's nuts.
Well, I
Of
guess
course.
I was
Or
going to
the,
say, I guess it kind of makes
are the
sense though,
pre-
because if they supply the salt and then you never use it, then somebody could sue them because they don't have good salt or whatever, And really, then the
And
case.
it
just need it.
adds to the liability of the church.
Yeah.
If a
Yes.
a person
If a
falls
parishioner
and gets
falls,
hurt, well,
yeah.
they've got a recourse. Well, the company didn't, salt properly, but if you didn't salt properly, then it goes all the way back to you.
But this is Canada. We don't sue people for stupid stuff like that. Like, it's just silly. We don't do that.
It's your
not
state.
easy to sue
Or-
someone here.
It's coming to your province.
You're right. Now that I've said this, it's actually really difficult to
Coming
sue someone.
soon. Yeah, I know. It's nuts down here.
You pretty much need to have the police permission to sue someone. It's not simple at all.
Wow,
No,
that's good.
That's a good thing, actually.
Yeah, I think that's a good thing.
I'd like for them to charge people court costs for stupid lawsuits.
Yeah.
Well, they do that here.
My favorite
do.
one is the whole
They
thing.
do.
McDonald's,
They do charge.
well, yeah, a lot more than that because there's still stupid ones going on. The McDonald's coffee, the lady dropped in her lap. And
That
an
was
urban
not
legend.
stupid. She got third
Third-degree
degree
burns.
burns.
And I
There's a
think the
coffee
lid wasn't
yeah.
on properly.
but whose fault was it?
The stupid
The-
part was because she put the coffee cup in between her legs in the car seat.
But but whose fault it is? Yeah, I have my water lower at my house because I've had children there, and you can get scalded even with hot water. But the
Yeah.
whole thing with I know McDonald's has big pockets, but having to put a coffee is hot.
But
to
it wouldn't
keep
have happened
itself
here
out of lawsuits.
McDonald's here has
That's-
got a
that's the
limit.
thing.
Well,
I
that's the
have
same
to
reason
take
why now they
responsibility
have
for
to
it.
put the warning on the Tide Pods.
Don't eat.
Mhm, don't eat them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
To
well,
say-
they were the ones serving coffee at an excess of 215 degrees Fahrenheit. So
Well, yeah, they shouldn't have done that either. So it was, two people
Well,
that did wrong
boiling
things on
water-
that one.
It wouldn't have been 215 because 212, it could have been 215 because
Yeah.
boiling
It
point
can get
elevation.
hotter. It can get
But-
hotter than boiling.
Well, it can get hotter when there's stuff in it. And I wasn't thinking about that. It's going to be near boiling.
Yeah.
It's like tea. So we just get so much of that. And it gets to be the ridiculous one. I'm sorry, I picked the wrong one, obviously. But, it's like my sister
Well,
got sued for her house because 10 or 12 years after they built it, and 5 or 6 years after it sold, there was a corner that it was in a Florida sinkholes, and part of the house went down, like in a big pothole, and she got sued for that, and the insurance company settled it. They didn't want to go to court even though the person didn't have a leg to stand on. I mean, we just see too much of that here.
Wait a minute. She got sued after she sold the house?
Oh,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
How?
Later.
Oh, they probably claimed that it wasn't properly cited
Right. They
in the
had done
first place.
everything. Yeah, they did. And they had done everything possible to make sure but it was right in front of a pond. I could go on. Yeah.
Well,
And I
Florida's
work
full
the
of
medical
potholes.
industry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Florida's basically Swiss cheese
It
anyway.
is. It's all limestone or
There's
coral.
just not
It's
a lot
all
of
built on a coral.
that too fast.
Yeah.
My father used to say common sense isn't very common anymore, and that's a lot of the problems that we're having is that people aren't using common sense. I remember when
It's
I
not
was
even
first.
just common sense. It's that everybody wants something to be somebody's fault, not theirs. And nobody is willing to accept any responsibility for their own
Everyone
actions.
likes to play the
Like if they
victim.
do stupid things, it's somebody else's fault.
Yeah.
Well,
When
I
was-
think it's a little of everything, you know.
Or it's a money-making proposition. My
Yeah.
husband was going down the interstate, was getting onto the interstate, and it was a blind curve. And he was trying to gather speed up the internet. Somebody had stopped in the middle of the on-ramp on purpose, so they would get hit.
Oh, Lord.
So they could go, I'm not kidding.
Isn't that illegal?
It
Yeah.
would be.
If you get caught, yeah.
Except rear-end collisions.
That they were
you
trying
always
to
get
stay
into
loose,
the-
trying to set up a lawsuit.
Wow.
So,
But
would anybody like to know what our surprise that we announced? That we would only tell you guys.
That's a
Okay, so you cut out Nancy, so say that again.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Is
you were
anyone
cutting in and out
interested in
there.
knowing what our surprise is?
Yes.
Of course.
Does anybody like trivia?
Me.
Well, I know you do,
I'm
Mary,
never
because
good
you're
at
a
it.
champion and
Yes.
I'm not good at
Terry
it
is
either.
a
Kathy.
And I don't get to play anymore.
No.
You just
You
get
have
to work.
Trivia.
Yeah, no, I get to come up with the fun questions.
So on December the 4th, which is in 2 weeks,
Saturday, 2 weeks.
3 weeks
It'll
from
be-
tomorrow?
2 weeks from tomorrow.
2 weeks from tomorrow.
weeks.
Holy moly. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep,
Yeah.
2
I
weeks
know
from
time
tomorrow.
is going.
Time
And it
flies.
will be at 4 o'clock Eastern. You can figure out whatever the time difference is where you guys all are.
All right. 12-4 at 4. Yeah.
And we will be having a trivia. There will be a prize. And it will be,
Other than, I was going to say, other than bragging rights.
yes, other than bragging rights, there will be only for the top.
Prize from the author.
Ooh, maybe it could be
Vera.
like a top prize from the offer would be the opportunity to be a beta reader for the companion novel or something like that.
No, it's a button.
Or
Actually-
that, or a
Actually,
button.
the companion novel
It's
will
not a big
be
prize.
ready
It's
earlier.
just a-
Debater reader, but I'm
It's an
not.
acknowledgement prize.
Okay,
Um,
buttons are good
but-
too.
And I don't know how many quizzes we'll go through. We may go through several, 2, 3, 4, 5, however long they take for however long we're on.
I enjoy watching it.
Oh, you should
Well,
participate.
by this time, the companion book should be out,
Or close to it.
Mm.
so that you can have your reference book.
Oh,
But
that's
there's
cheating,
no
right?
time. That's for
Oh, I'm
studying.
sure
but
every-
there's
You're
no
only allowed
time
so
for
many,
the
you're only allowed so
studying.
many
You would
seconds to answer.
You
I
wouldn't
was
be
going to say, I
able
don't
to
think
have time
anybody's
to
going to
look
be
up
able to actually look anything up in time to do the trivia.
Right.
because,
No,
Yeah.
you could use
So
it.
we're
in
in
the
that.
You can use it
outside.
beforehand to refresh your memory.
Yeah.
Look through it
But
beforehand to
I
refresh your
I
memory
bet
about
Mary
stuff.
could. Mary could do it.
Mary probably could do it right this minute.
Yeah.
And let me tell you,
What are we betting I can do?
do a full
Memorize the
quiz and
companion
win.
novel.
Do it, yeah. Do a full-
I actually, I do have a very good memory for reading, but I also read a tremendous amount and I reread, which not everybody does. I reread the things that I enjoy. I will reread
Mhm.
several
do too.
times.
I usually
But
don't
anytime.
have time to reread anything because my to read list is way too long.
Well,
Although I
read a lot
have to
at
admit that I
the
have read,
exclusion of a lot of other things. So
I've read Vera's books twice. So yeah.
So when is the companion novel coming out? I know it's soon.
Soon.
That's all I
Yes,
can tell
soon.
you. All I can tell you is soon.
And
Very,
and it's not a
got it
novel,
right
it's
now.
a
Right.
reference book.
The reference, yeah.
Reference book, yeah.
Yeah.
Vera is working on it right now. She's got, she's compiling all the notes She's got to still scan some diagrams and so forth.
And pictures, yeah.
So a lot of the things that have been on Pinterest and in the forum will probably be in the companion book.
Mhm.
I've seen her notifications about how many words, but I don't know how many words it's gonna be, so I don't know. It doesn't
It's
mean
it's
anything.
very
does she.
close to, it's very
Right.
close now to being complete. But she has to do a lot of formatting and adding of the pictures and the diagrams and maps and things like that.
And then I think she keeps finding more stuff to add.
And she's trying to do an index for the print version. The print version will have an index, the ebook version won't. Because you can just,
You just search.
You just do
that.
searches for it, yeah.
yeah. Oh, so probably the ebook will be
The written
available
and the
before
ebook
the.
coming out together,
What's that?
and the written one coming out at the same time.
No, the
No.
written probably will be delayed because of the indexing.
So the
That's
ebook
required.
first.
And also the
The
print,
ebook will be
and also the
available.
print, the actual printing of the book.
Yeah.
That's
And then
pretty
she has
much
to
how they
order
all
it.
work. She always
Yeah.
comes out with the ebook version first and then shortly followed by the print versions.
Right.
Because the print version is print on demand and it takes longer to get it together.
We all buy both.
What about the audiobook for Ace and Blue?
That should
That
be out.
is published as December the 7th. However, it could come out early.
It could come around Thanksgiving.
Yeah,
Soon.
That would be
He
a
doesn't
nice
really
thing.
have.
But the
he doesn't
official
really have any
release date
control
is
over that.
12/7, yeah.
And I know Vera will post that as soon as she knows that.
Yeah, I know there was a sample out. But
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
gonna say, and I think
think it's
everybody's
done
gonna
and
like
just-
this narrator that got picked for doing the voice of East and,
Is he
Ace.
dreamy?
pardon?
Is he dreamy?
Oh, yeah.
Well, yeah.
I mean,
Sounds good. Did you
It may-
listen to the
You guys
sample?
like him anyway.
I
huh?
listened
There
to
may
the
be a
sample. I
sample
thought
out.
the
There may
sample
be a
was good.
sample.
There is a sample out there. Tantor did put out a sample.
yeah, who posted that? Was that you, Mary?
Yeah, I had just
Who
gone to look
posted
at
it?
it to see if it was, it was there, you know, if it was out yet,
right.
because I wanted to hear it.
Yeah, so if you want to,
But
if
yeah,
you
it
want to hear
starts-
it,
It's essentially the first bit, but it starts a little bit, it starts like maybe a paragraph or two in.
mhm.
Yeah.
But if you
always
want to hear it,
afraid to
just
look
go
those
to the Astrodema
Kind of how I found out when,
group and put Mary's name in and it'll come up.
So on a side note, I have a small victory. I managed to get my county and city libraries to have qualify at least.
Yay!
Since it's
Yay.
free, they're not out anything. Well, I mean, the ebook is free.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
Sister-
working on the others.
My sister lives up in drawing a blank. It's north of LA, and she got the books because she would request them to be borrowed, and so then the library would buy the book and then they have it. So I think it's a pretty cool. Fraser Park. She's in Fraser Park, so so they
my
have a.
library does that too. If they have enough requests, they'll buy the book.
That's
I
about
did
the
put
only way that they'll
requests in.
do it. You can't
On-
donate the books
but-
to them. Unfortunately, they end up putting it in their book sales and they don't do anything with them. So
If you're gonna donate a book like that to the library, you have to talk to the librarian ahead of time and negotiate that sort of thing with them for them
Yeah.
to put it on the shelf instead of putting it in the, Friends of the Library book sale department. Yeah.
Wow, that's
That's
complicated.
absolutely
compared to
true.
here.
I think California's
That's
got the
quite
best.
complicated compared to
library.
here. You can just donate them and they'll put them on the shelf.
Yeah, no, most of the libraries here, if you just flat donate books, they will put them in the library sale instead
That's
of
what
on
they
the
do
shelf.
here, too.
They don't
Yeah.
get enough money from the counties to really do all their what they have to do to keep everything going. So that's how they make money.
Well,
Well,
and
not-
they have most of the, they
I have
have.
to
most
say,
of the-
most of the time, they've already got 89 copies of whatever
Yeah,
it is that somebody's
exactly.
given them, so they don't need any more of it. And they don't have they usually don't have the manpower to look at every one of the donations and see if
Right.
it's something they don't have a copy of already. That's why
Okay.
it's better to actually go have a chat with your librarian first. And
The
yeah,
other thing is a lot of them don't have enough space. I know most of the libraries I've been in are jammed to the rafters with books already, and
yeah, that's another issue sometimes is that they don't have room for it. But if you're trying to donate audiobooks, then, sometimes they'll have more room for that. But then it's a whole different format here. And I think that most of the libraries have gone to that overdrive thing, but then you still,
Yeah.
but then they get into all kinds of copyright issues when you give them stuff if it wasn't originally released in some format that they can get, and it gets really squirrely. So sometimes it's hard to donate audiobooks and ebooks, even if it is something you've bought and paid for, that gets weird. So
Yeah.
Welcome, Sarah. I just know you popped up.
So I'm just out of curiosity, you guys like these colors? Can you see them?
Yeah,
Love it.
yes,
very
Very
Florida
pretty.
looking.
Yeah, I was like, I'm trying to, it's a scarf.
It's very Florida
Are you
looking.
doing a Hoovian scarf?
No, it's not the right colors for Doctor Who.
I know. It's
Very
not.
pretty.
It just reminded me of it.
Yeah, when I said I was making a scarf, that's most people's first question. Oh, is it like a Tom Baker scarf? No.
No.
No, it
But it did
reminds me of the
bring me
colors
together.
of an aurora borealis.
Oh, cool. That's neat. I've never got to see one live and in person. It's one of these, that's on my bucket list. Yeah. get to
I
see
saw
that.
one from an airplane one time coming
Oh,
back
cool.
to Chicago, and the pilot turned the lights out, which he wasn't supposed to do. That was cool.
I saw one a couple times on the airplane and then once or twice here in Wisconsin.
really.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to go out into the country where it's really dark and it's
Mhm.
usually just along the horizon, it's not like up in Alaska or Norway or someplace like that.
Yeah.
Or Canada.
Yeah. We
Northern
went to
Canada.
Ireland hoping to see them because we were on the end of the time. The week after we left, they had them, but we got the
Oh.
rain of the hurricane. So except for one day, it rained like crazy. But it's just luck of the draw.
Yeah, when you travel there.
Is everybody working on something for the art contest or the costume contest? You don't have to tell us what it is, but if you're working on something, anybody working on anything?
Not yet. I've got ideas, but I haven't done anything yet.
I am
but
hopeless when it comes to any kind of artwork, so I never even think about doing anything like that.
Me either.
I used to be artsy, but I've since become exhausted. So I just
I was
don't.
impressed last year with the person that made the Revet dress.
Yeah, isn't that great?
That was pretty impressive.
It
That was Ricky.
That was
was
Ricky.
Ricky,
He's
yeah.
on here right
Yeah.
now.
did a
Bippin'
great-
job.
Thank you.
Yes, that was a lot of work.
That was amazing.
Yeah.
I never would have expected something like that.
So
Having
Ricky, what are
fun,
you
I get-
making now?
That took some time.
Are you
How
making?
long did it take you to put together?
Several weeks because we were in lockdown, so everything was closed. Like I couldn't.
Oh.
It was so difficult to source materials. That was the hard part. I
Oh,
called.
I
the
hadn't thought
lady-
about the fact that it was hard to get the parts, that you had the time to work on it, but you had to get the parts first. Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it was wacky. I
Harriet
was trying to
also had
explain.
some good art.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So I'm working on the red dress this year.
Oh,
Not
Yeah.
entering for the contest, just for fun.
yeah.
Just
Yeah.
because I don't know. I want to see it come to life. And so
I
love
want to see it. I want to see it in the contest.
Yeah, why not for the contest?
Yeah,
I
why
wanna
not put it
see
in the contest? You should.
Well, I can still submit it. I can't win, right? Like it's.
Well, we were talking about depending on how we.
It depends on how many, we get and whether or not, and when we get them.
Yeah.
If it's the
I
committee.
just don't care. I don't care. I've already got everything that Vera could give or sign or.
Well, but you could at least display it. We
Yeah,
all
that's
have
what
a
I mean.
museum
Yeah.
and you can display it. Yeah.
Pick somebody else to encourage them and yeah.
I know.
Yeah, I'll definitely submit for show.
Oh, I'd love to see it. Your next task is to do the wedding dress.
Now that's the one I've been trying to figure out in my head is how to do that one.
I don't have it in my head yet.
Yeah, that would be a tough one.
I couldn't figure out how she would hold her arms the right way to do it. I mean, I know it was explained, but
Yeah.
Okay, but what Vera envisions in her head isn't always actually possible, is one of the fun
But
things
have you
that I found out.
actually
when making
tried to do that?
So that's part of the fun, right?
because she's supposed to look elegant.
Yeah, we also don't have the orichalcum. So, but I could see it done with Velcro, really light.
Well, they'll be able to do it on a TV or movie kind of situation. They'll be able to do.
Oh yeah,
industrial
they'll be
light
able to
visual
do it.
CG.
They'll just do it with a remote control.
I was going to say, I don't even think that needs to be CGI. That just needs to be really clever electronics.
It's just going to be engineered.
Magnets could do it.
Yeah.
There's this lady on America's Got Talent that does costume changes super quick.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
I'm kind of thinking something along those lines where I think I don't know how she's doing it. My guess is it's some kind of paper or phosphorescent paper.
does
A lot of times they wear different parts. Well,
She wears it all.
I heard of my daughter who would have to do that. All the actors in a play, they all have to learn how to change quickly, and she's just taking it to a new high.
Well,
But
here's one of the things that
unless
unless you've worked in stage costuming or television costuming, a lot of people don't understand that unless they're obviously wearing street clothes, then the way that you put together an outfit for stage or television is very different than your actual clothes. Like everything's in layers, and where if we were going to make, say, a jacket, right, we just make a jacket and then put all the stuff on it, right? But if they're wearing it, then it's like 5 and 6 different pieces, so they can take the different pieces off in case one part of it gets soiled. They can replace just one part of it, and also so that in between takes they don't get really hot, but they also don't have to get completely undressed. And so the way you construct, that's why they're actually called costumes, just like on a stage, is that they're not clothes, they're costumes, and they're built differently. So when you look at trying to make something like one of the dresses in the books, then if you look at it as a costume instead of clothing, then that kind of gives you more ideas of how you would put it together, because you would never do it as all one thing anyway. You would want to make sure you can get it off easy and get it on easy, and and like I said, because like, for example, if you're an actor, you want to be able to go eat lunch or get coffee or whatever and not take a chance on getting your costume dirty. So you want to make sure as much of it comes off as possible. And
I think that's one of the problems they had. I know Jerry Ryan was talking about in Star Trek Voyager.
Oh, well, yeah, except for when they get stupid and sew them into them. Yes.
And Marina also, in wearing those cat suits, you just had to make sure that you didn't have to go to the bathroom.
Right now, yeah. So no, they did
And it's
Jerry
not like you
Ryan
could wear
costume
anything
here because they
underneath them.
literally sewed her into it, and she could not sit down in it. I remember her telling stories about the fact that she would have to lean against things. They have this kind of like a reclining board where she could walk up to it and then lean back, and it would lean a little bit, but it still kept her straight because she couldn't sit down in that thing at all. And if she needed to go to the bathroom, that was like a half-hour production.
Oh God.
But somebody would have to cut her out of it and then help her get out of it. And then she'd have to go to the bathroom, and then she'd have to come back, and then they'd have to sew her back into it. And I think that if that was me being the actress, they'd be like, all right, we got to come up with another plan.
we're gonna put some heavy duty Velcro in this. We're not doing
Yeah,
that.
they make hidden zippers now. Nowadays, they make hidden zippers. They've had them for years.
It's
Right?
not rocket science.
My daughter
I
did
had-
professional ballet for a few years. And so some of the costumes are old because they're so well made.
Mm.
I
Yeah.
can believe
And like
it.
the tutus, they're separate. And you actually do have to sew them into the top of the bodice part of it.
Oh,
And the tutus cost like $20,000 or $30,000.
I can imagine. Yeah, they're really
But
stiff
they
ones.
last
Yeah.
20 years.
Yep.
wow.
So, but
Wow.
yeah, the first time somebody handed me a needle with an upholstery, which is like a hook shaped
Yeah.
The hooked
needle,
needles.
and
Yeah.
said, go grab one of the roses and start sewing her in.
Yeah.
I said, I only know how to sew flesh. I don't know how to sew fabric. And
We're gonna do a blanket stitch right here.
Yeah.
yeah,
For a whip stitch. Yeah.
after
You
that,
have
they
an
took
Emma
me
join
aside
us?
and showed me how to do it with a ribbon to practice. And
Hello.
then after that, I was a green room slave.
Hi, Emma. I sewed my niece into her wedding dress because
Wow.
she'd lost too much weight. And so her mother got one side of it and I got the other side of it. So she was tight enough that she wouldn't fall out of it.
Okay, so
Right.
I don't think I've ever had that problem ever in my entire life. And when I
Yeah.
made a dress for something, by the time I went to wear it, it was too small. Yeah.
Typically, this was this girl's problem. She had a weight issue, but her mother was on her, I'm going to say this nicely, on her case so much that she freaked out and she lost a bunch of weight. So it's like,
Wow.
give the girl a break, man.
Mhm.
So we sewed her in and we said, we'll just clip you out when we're done.
I'm really hoping the young lady who did the beautiful art piece does another one. I want to see what's
Yeah.
swirling around in her head. You know,
Wasn't
Yeah.
that person particularly young?
I don't remember now. I want to say she was in her 20s, maybe.
Oh, I thought it was an early teen person.
no.
That was
Not the
that
one who
was
did the really nice painting. No, that
With
was.
the arch in the back and stuff.
Mhm.
Yes.
She's older. Not quite middle age. Let's go with. But
Yeah.
I
it was
find
just
that
amazing.
I really do want to make something, but there's nothing that's really inspiring me right now with regards to the Grail series. Not yet.
Something will
find
come
that's
along
odd.
at some point and inspire you, you know. It's
Mhm.
okay if
Yeah.
everybody's not inspired at the same time.
That means it's time for a reread.
Yeah,
Mm.
right.
Find something else.
Or you know, maybe the next story will get her and something will be there and she's like, oh, I have to do that, you know.
Right.
When do the entries have to be done by?
We haven't decided yet.
Probably the beginning, sometime in April. I'm sure it's going to be
beginning of May. It's
somewhere around there. Just yeah. Plan
Yeah.
for April-ish.
Yeah.
Okay, 'cause I've only just recently moved, so I've literally just set my house up in the last couple of days, so I haven't had time to do anything yet. But I
Wow.
do want to, so I was curious about time frames to see whether I still got enough time left to actually do something.
I would shoot for wanting to have it finished by mid-April.
Yeah, that's plenty of time. I can definitely do something before then.
Because if we do have enough entries that we can actually have the fans voting on it, then we would have definite deadlines. And you know, miss those deadlines.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, that's a good thing to aim at. Aim at April the 15th, and then we'll let you know if it changes.
We're hoping that we can do fan voting this time.
Oh,
Yeah.
You know, the registered people who are registered for the con will be able to vote on their favorite art. So we would actually post it to them beforehand. But we don't know if we'll get enough entries to do that.
That's good marketing too.
Competitions, but I also because I'm actually doing floristry at the moment, I'm going to recreate Easton's hair from Eastern Blue when they put all the flowers in the back of it. I'm planning on recreating that.
That sounds like fun.
Just for something to do for one of my projects for my actual schooling. I thought, you know what? Why the hell not? I'm just gonna, instead of doing bridal hair, I'm gonna do Eason's hair instead. So
I like it.
something different.
I was kind of thinking it'd be fun to make an the window.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be really cool.
Oh, the Astrakradra window.
Can't say the word, yeah.
I was gonna say that thing that no one can pronounce besides Vera half the time. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not easy.
Well, that's what they say about readers. We know what the word is, we just don't know how to say it.
That
Exactly. Yeah.
fun.
And we all know what, if anybody comes close to mangling it, or, you know, then we all know what you meant. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
It's like that thing. Yeah.
Lieutenant still drives me nuts.
The
Which
window.
does?
Lieutenant and lieutenant.
Oh, yes, yes, yes.
Well, it's the
British-
same word.
I
The
know.
British
Yeah,
versus
the
the
right to it.
Americanized,
Oh, there's a lot of words that are like that. They get pronounced differently depending on what country you're standing in, even if it's English, you know?
Oh, for sure.
But some of the words, and I can't right now. I can't. Oh, and I can't say it. Schedule is pronounced correctly.
Schedule.
They pronounce
Schedule.
correct. Yes.
Schedule.
In the
Yeah.
UK, it's schedule.
Yeah,
But they
schedule.
pronounce every letter. But
Yeah.
I want, if there's a lieutenant and lieutenant, I want to know where the right tenant is. Okay, y'all can slap me now.
Yeah, no.
Oh, when I was a lieutenant, I liked being called lieutenant.
There's times where I'm talking with my mom and she goes, wait, what was that word? And I'll repeat it and she's like, I have no idea what that is, and I'll spell it out for her. And she goes, that's not how you say that.
Yeah, well, it turns out that when I was growing up, I grew up in the South. It's in the state of Georgia. And bye, Carrie.
I can't.
Bye, Carrie. Feel better.
I was raised to mispronounce a lot of words. And so when I got out into the real world and away from my parents and got to actually learn the proper pronunciation of things, there's still some words I can't pronounce correctly because in my brain, I go to the original way I learned it wrong.
Some of mine, I got made fun at. And I said, listen, that's from my mother, who was from Tidewater, Virginia. That's how she pronounced it. That's how I grew up with it.
At least I didn't pick up my mom's ones, which was my, there's that joke about everybody up north doesn't put R's in the words, like they say park the car, right? So there's no R's there anywhere.
That's
They all
Boston.
fall down to Georgia, and my mother caught them all because she said wash, like go wash the car, go wash the dishes.
Yeah.
And she got ideas about stuff. But the weirdest one was she would add an R into the middle of the word Chicago. So she always said Chicago. Yeah. And I'd be like, no, Mom, it does not have an R in it.
Well, if you're gonna put an extra car in something, Detroit would be a better place.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, don't know where it came from, but my husband's family pronounces the word sandwich as sandwich.
Oh,
It's like there's no G in the word.
Yeah.
Language.
And I have no idea where it
Sandwich,
came
huh?
from.
My dad used to,
Language.
my dad couldn't say walrus, and he always said warless. So yeah, took me forever to figure out what he was talking about. And then he would put an N in the middle of the word milk, and I still cannot figure out how he did it, but he did it. MINLK.
Milk.
Milk.
Yeah, it's weird.
Something like that.
Sorry, Candace, you were saying something?
Oh, my husband likes to annoy me by saying equipment.
Is he an engineer?
No, we're both gamers. I don't know why he does it, but he does it just to annoy me most of the time now.
And if there's anything in French, I am nobody believes me, but I'll tell you, I am Hispanic, redheaded Hispanic. half, but I can't do French. I never took French. I took Spanish, and it's not the same. So
I
would
cannot
not
pronounce
dare
French.
to slaughter a word.
Yeah.
I was terrible at French and Spanish in school. So I took Latin because you didn't have to speak it.
Yeah.
It's kind of
There you go.
language.
I have to sing it sometimes at church, which
In my
fun.
Latin class, we did have to speak it, but you didn't have to speak it outside of class, definitely.
Well,
But,
when I took Latin, we spoke it in class, and that was about it.
Yeah. You're talking about the French thing. I know that the British are like vehemently opposed to pronouncing any French word correctly. Well, as far as the French are concerned. So, and where we would say fillet, for fillet of fish or a fillet knife or whatever. Yeah. In the UK, it's definitely fillet.
Feel it. I've heard that.
Yeah. So that's that's
Well,
one
the
of their
French and the English have been fighting with each other as long as there's been,
It's out of spite.
French and
It's
English.
got
Yeah,
nothing to
exactly.
do with-
as long as there's been a boat that
She
can cross the
insisted
channel.
her name was Bouquet.
Oh, well, that's
Yes,
just a
bucket.
running joke, but yeah.
That's the point, yes.
Hyacinth bucket, it's bouquet.
It's
I think that's one of the
Well,
reasons I really like the audiobook for The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. Simon Vance read them for the American versions.
Uh-huh.
And he pronounced all those Scandinavian words that you just had no bloody idea how to say.
Yeah.
Kind of skipped over them.
Yeah, but some of them were so similar, especially the street names. You'd get kind of lost in the story, but when you read them, you could follow along because he pronounced them. That was nice. At least Farrah's books don't have words that are so hooray that you can't say them.
Except that sometimes one of the things that annoys me about audiobooks is when people can't pronounce the words that are easy to pronounce, like, and then and then it's like, well, I want to go at least pick one pronunciation and stick with that through the whole thing. But, sometimes they'll be like, over here, they'll pronounce it one way, sorry. And, and then 5 minutes later, if they have to say the word again, they'll say it a different way. And it's like, no, don't do that. Because then I have to get annoyed. And now I've lost track of what's going on in the story.
My mother just in Ontario, once you turn 65 and you're retired, university education is free. And so
Cool.
so she's gone back to school for her 3rd degree now that she's retired in Latin. So that's her.
Fun.
Nice.
Wow.
I'm actually considering going for my bachelor's in classics, and I'm still trying to decide whether I want to go for Greek or Latin.
Latin is easier.
Greek
First
Greek
degree is
is
in
all
classics.
too.
My first
Yeah.
degree was in
It was
classics
South Carolina.
philosophy,
Mhm.
and Greek is a difficult one for most Americans. I found that Greek, I had to take 1 semester of it because it was required. They said just so that you would be able to pronounce things so your professors didn't go crazy. And, I found it incredibly difficult.
Okay.
For
Not
those
that
of
you
you in
won't,
the
you might
know-
be like, wizard at it.
Oh
was
no,
not.
me and languages don't get along very well. I went with
Yeah.
sign language.
I think Latin would be better because so much of it is the basis for so many of our words. And so
Other
just in that
languages,
sense, it would be easier. And it would help make sense of English,
I actually understood English a lot better after I took Latin.
Yeah, right.
Okay. I'll keep that in mind.
That's just a suggestion.
2 cents from a few people. So what, go by like 8 cents now, I think. Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Hey, at least somebody's talking to me about it.
There was a lot of good things to
Latin,
read.
it's just that Latin has more, although Greek is an active language.
That's true, but
If Liz were here, she would probably tell you, to try
Go
Greek.
for Greek, yeah.
he'd say take Latin.
Well, here's the thing about taking Latin. At least it helps you understand what's going on in a lot of other languages. So if you like to travel, then unless you go to a couple of the weird countries like Finland, where none of that is Latin based, and or Russian, where it's also not Latin based. But if you go to a lot of countries where they do speak some Latin based language, you can at least figure out some of what's going on,
English,
especially
French,
reading signs.
Spanish, and Italian.
Yeah.
Although
So
she said she's had ASL, which is universal.
no, it's American.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought some of the things were universal.
There's a lot of them that are really similar, but it's just like, go language between any spoken language, it's similar but different. But ASL is American Sign Language. And so they don't speak the same sign language in other countries. Just some of the words are the same.
Yeah.
And
Well, there's one
it's
thing
kind
I
of
didn't-
like also, you've got American English, and then you've got
Canadian English.
Canadian English.
British English, Canadian English,
Australian English. Yeah.
South African.
and I mean, they're
South
all
Africa,
just a little bit different.
Indian.
Yeah.
And then you
Oh,
have the
my
countries
Indian English
where-
is most very good.
and then
I've
you have
spoken with
countries
many
like
technical
Japan
helpers
where
who have helped me with
there's-
my accent.
That's very good.
Lots of co-workers that have helped me with mine. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you have countries like Japan where their sign language is just completely different.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, because their whole body language thing is different too.
That's true.
Because when I was in karate, all the guys just had to learn to bow. But when the big whoop-de-doo guy came from Japan to give us all of our advanced belts, the women all had to learn how to do that whole geisha kneeling thing where you went all the way down and put your hands out in front of you. And I wish they'd had that movie Memoirs of a Geisha so I could just watch that part over and over again when they were teaching her how to do it. That would have been really helpful.
Or better yet, refuse to do it and just do the bow.
Yeah.
When a guy that's
Yeah.
92 years old is coming all the way from Japan, you show
Yeah.
respect.
It's
I
cult-
guess.
it's
If he
it's
was
a
my age,
cultural
I wouldn't
thing.
have done it, but
Yeah.
I was 28 and he was 92.
Yeah.
And I was told that respect was required.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
respect
they're
is a
very
huge
strong.
part of Japanese culture
Oh,
anyway.
yeah.
So,
Even
yeah.
I mean, it was a
in
big deal for
the
him to
South,
let
it's
women
manners
have a
there,
black
it's
belt in the first
respect.
place. Because he didn't used to. So I went along with it and,
Yeah.
learned how to do the Neely thing.
I would have too.
Yeah.
I feel like when you're 92, you can tell people to do whatever you want and they kind of have to do it. And that's what I'm really personally looking forward to as a 92-year-old.
It's the other problems that you have as you go along. Your body just doesn't work as well as it
Yeah,
used to.
you don't want to wish for that. I think I'm older
Yeah.
than any of you. You don't want to wish for
I
that.
don't know. Well, guys, I gotta say goodnight. I had to go babysit this morning, so I had to be out the door before 7 to get to my daughter. She's a half an hour away, so I'm dead. And tomorrow I
Hey,
cook for
Nydia.
Thanksgiving.
I'm glad you got to
So,
come hang out with us,
Night.
Nydia. Have a good
Happy
night.
Yeah, I wish it could be
Thanksgiving.
longer. All right, take care. Bye.
I'm
Bye.
actually gonna head out too. So
Okay, Candace. Nice to meet you. I don't think I've seen you before, so hi.
no, this will actually be my first tag con. I
Oh,
could have
cool.
attended, but it overlapped with my other convention work. I work with the science fiction conventions and the anime conventions here in Southern California.
Cool.
So
Cool.
so big nerd. Anyways, pleasure to meet you all.
Not
I
the
will
only
see you
one.
again.
Nice to meet you, Candace.
Bye.
Before everybody leaves, I have a quick question for those of you in the know.
Sure.
Have we heard anything about movie and TV show for various
No.
books?
Nothing.
Probably got a
Basically,
gag.
any news? since
Nothing-
the
She's probably had to sign a non-disclosure. I'm
I think if
guessing.
there was something to say, if there had been something signed, she would say, but there's no news. at this
No
point.
news doesn't mean that she hasn't signed a non-disclosure about it.
It's true.
Her last instructions to us as fans, when we asked the producer, what can we do to help, right? When he was on last time.
Stop
His
sending
answer-
pictures of actors.
What? No, don't do that. His answer was convince more people to read the books, increase the fan base. That's what he needs from us as fans for Vera in order to have a successful pitch to various production companies. Is
Right.
Working on
Which
it.
is
I
why
realise-
we're trying to do these pre-convention things, and that's why we record everything. It's not for us. It's so that Richard's got, okay, we've got these fans over here and they're doing this, and then we've got this over here and they're doing this, and that just helps him in promoting.
But certainly the bigger the con, next spring's con is, the better.
Absolutely. Yeah.
If we can get it up over 400 or 500, that would be amazing. Registered people. We'll just have to see. We had close to 300 for the first one.
Well, and with Vera coming out with the companion reference and then maybe one more book before then, that will help, I think.
Oh, for sure. Ace and
Yep.
Black will be out before
The
next
convention.
spring. Yeah, hopefully it'll be out very,
Well,
That's
and
the
even
beginning of the year.
even
Very
the audio
soon.
book coming right away, that there are a lot of people that only want to do audio, so.
yeah, there are. I was surprised how many people said they didn't know how the names in TAG were written because they'd only listened to the books.
Right. I have a
read
lot
them.
of friends who have kind of changed over, who were big readers and are now mainly consumers of audiobooks.
I
I don't
actually
think that makes
gone
them less of a
backwards.
reader.
I was gonna say I've gone backwards in my audiobooks because I moved closer to work. I used to be like half an hour each way. So that was like at least a good hour of listening to audiobooks every day. So I would do that in the car. And
Mhm.
now I don't have that travel time, and I can't listen to an audiobook when I'm working because I want to pay attention to what's going on. I have a friend who does it all the time, and I'm like, your job must not require you to concentrate as much as mine does. I mean, I get it if you've got a relatively,
Repetitious.
repetitive job. I wasn't going to say mind numbing because that's not always the case. But if it doesn't, you're just doing the same thing, and it's very repetitive. But
Require higher consciousness. It's
Right,
very,
Like when you're working with flowers, you don't need to be concentrating on the flowers that much. You're literally just putting them all together, and it's almost just
you're using a different part of your brain to do it.
essentially, yes.
right, yeah. So you
Listen
can
to
you can do
audiobooks
that.
at the same time. So
I
I'm
don't
a
know if
computer
you gave me a bunch
programmer,
of
so I'm
flowers, I'd probably
basically-
have to really think about it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
these friends I'm talking about are retired like I am, and I used to read. I still do read, but I often choose just around the house and around just normal things. Maybe in the same situation where I would sit down and read, I find myself listening to an audiobook.
So I've switched over to listening to way too many podcasts about various and sundry things.
I have
And
tried
so-
to stay away from that.
Yeah. So I can listen to the podcasts while I'm working because most of them don't require me to pay a lot of attention. I can
Right.
just kind of get the general idea what
Having
they're
the
talking
TV
about.
in the background or something.
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes I put the TV on in the background and, and watch, Forensic Files for the 900th time or something. But, it just depends. But even if I'm in the office, I can listen to podcasts on my headphones, but I just can't. I can't.
I mean, I'll listen to an audiobook while I'm doing yard work. I'll listen to it when I'm doing housework. Or even out doing. I go kayaking in the morning because I live on one of these little residential lakes. I'll do it when,
Cool.
But anyway, I have enjoyed the audiobooks. I
Mhm.
still read.
I cannot do a book for very long because my attention wanders and I'll miss half of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I find myself
Whereas I
that
will
way,
sit
but
and
I
read
have
and
changed
get
over.
everything. But if I listen to it, I only get about half of it.
My problem is if I'm listening to an audiobook, sometimes, like they'll be talking about something that say red, and then I'll go red. Oh, right. That's right. I need tomatoes. And then, oh, well, if I need tomatoes, what else do I need for my shopping list? And and then I go, shit, I haven't been listening for 10 minutes, and you have to back it up because your mind went.
I mean, like that's me. My mind just wanders off and
took that left turn down the grocery list. Yeah.
I don't even have the radio on in my car anymore.
Wow.
Why?
I'm in my car a lot.
Yeah.
Oh, now
I just
what do
don't
you
like
have
the
on in your
distraction.
car?
I like the silence.
Oh,
One
no,
of the things I
silence is
like
the-
about audiobooks at night is with Audible, it has a timer.
Oh,
Because
Yeah, you
I
can
am
set the timer.
absolutely terrible about staying up and reading. I'm a one more chapter girl. Oh, just one more chapter.
Uh-huh.
so
Even
it makes you stop.
Ricky,
and
are you
also-
eating asparagus?
A
Or
bean.
green beans. Green beans. Okay. Sorry, I was just distracted about what she was eating.
That's why she can't read an audiobook.
Reading a bean. Yeah, there you go.
I mean, I can't even watch a television program or a movie with subtitles
Oh yeah, no, I can do that. And
because I don't, when something's on, I mean, I'm half watching it, listening, but if I've got to, sit and read those subtitles, it requires too much of my concentration, and then I'm bored.
I can
I
do
don't even
this
pay attention to it.
subtitle thing for a while, but depends on what
I
it
can do
is.
like 3 or 4 things at once. If I didn't have my sound on in the video here, I'd probably have the TV and listening to an audiobook and doing something on the computer.
Right. Well, I can
Drives my husband nuts.
I can do this while
I'll
I'm
have the
talking to
TV on, I'll
everybody
be reading
because I
something,
don't
and I'll
have,
be
this
playing
is
on my
one of
phone.
those patterns I don't have to think about a
Are you
lot. so-
crocheting?
I am, yes. It's just off camera, so nobody can see that that's what I'm doing.
I
Is
perhaps
that
stuck in
scarf?
masks for sewing.
I like how tidy your bookshelf is.
Oh, thank you. That is my DVD collection behind me.
Oh, is it? I was gonna say, so many books the same size.
Yeah, that's because they're on that's the DVDs. Yeah. And the books are off in another room. I'm still in my makeshift office. I decided I was about to play, as I like to call it, house Tetris. Right before the pandemic started, I was finally going to get around to doing my office the way I wanted it, my sewing room the way I wanted it. And then I had to put that off for a while. And then we started working from home. So I'm actually still in my dining room. And so I have a desk in my dining room, which is where my DVDs are. And eventually, I've been working on the craft room. So eventually I'll get my office and put my desk back in my office. Yay. But everything's like, it's like Tetris. You have to move things around to get, or it's like those Chinese puzzles to move things around to get to where you want to go. So.
Yeah, I have a whole bunch of DVDs too, but I haven't bought any lately now that everything is just digital. In fact,
I haven't bought very many. I think that my newest one is Free Guy, though. Have you guys ever seen that movie?
Which one?
Yeah, it's good.
No.
Free Guy.
No, I haven't seen that one.
No, I haven't seen that.
If you like science fiction or gaming at all, this is awesome. First of all, it's Ryan Reynolds. You can't go bad with Ryan Reynolds.
Called
Anything.
Free Guy.
Canadian.
Huh?
He's a
Canadian,
Canadian.
And yes, it's called Free Guy. And the idea is that he's in a video game
But
and he
doesn't know.
learns that he's in a, he's one of the NPCs, the main, the background player, basically, and he learns that he's in a video game and he decides that he doesn't like that.
Isn't it kind of like that movie Jim Carrey was in?
I
where
don't
he
even know
was
if
in
my
the
Truman
DVD
Show?
player works
The
anymore.
Truman Show. But
Yeah.
that was live action. This one is
Right. Just
video
it
game.
seems a similar concept.
It is.
No.
I would have to say
Not
no.
really,
I've seen
no.
both, and no,
No.
I wouldn't
No,
compare
nothing
them.
like Truman. Nothing like Truman at all. It's
Yeah.
a very different
Truman
concept. It's
Truman
actually
was the
aimed at
lead
gamers.
character, and he
Fun.
didn't know he was. Truman
Yeah.
was the lead character, and he's the only one who didn't know
No,
Yeah.
Ryan Reynolds is actually meant to
Okay.
be more artificial intelligence. Truman was an actual person. This is an artificial intelligence that is learning as it is going. So he's not
And
real.
he's a non-player character. Okay, got it.
He's a non-player
NPC.
character,
Thank you,
and
non-player character.
artificial intelligence that's learning as it's progressing through the movie. It is actually learning, growing, changing, and the whole game is learning, growing, changing as it goes. It's
Yeah.
a total look at the AI side of things, not like Truman at all.
Terry, I only know that word from reading Ready Player One.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say, and that was an excellent explanation of what the movie is. So thank you. I have a hard time explaining it to people other than it's really awesome. Go watch it.
Yeah, I mean, having a son that's an avid gamer, it just makes so much sense that it really is exactly what they're all looking at the moment. That, you know, like how far is it before the games are actually so far advanced that they are basically AI, that they are learning as they're going, because it's getting to that stage now. with
When are we
games.
going to get to Hal? God.
And then when are we actually then like playing with things that we shouldn't, which is what the premise of the whole thing is, where gamers are starting to look at that and say, should we be creating games that are like that? Because if they are learning, growing, and they're artificially intelligent, then should we be messing with that?
Well, they were talking
Isn't
about
there
that
the
years
Morse-
ago in the Matrix.
Mm.
But isn't
Which
there
is
the
where the
Morris
new
theory
Matrix
that
is
there's
going as
there's-
well.
that the speed of for heaven's sakes, not the sensors, the speed of the computers
Processing?
to be able to
Processing.
move data from one piece to another is getting to the point where it's going to top out here pretty soon.
Well, they're already working on quantum computers. So
Yeah.
that
Yes.
helps help
Depends
solve
on
that
what-
problem.
Yeah.
Yes, my university just got a giant grant for that.
The quantum
Unfortunately, that was not my
side of-
department, so I don't have a giant grant. I have a
Quantum-
modest grant.
Yeah, the quantum physics in computers and in gaming is just exponentially growing at the moment, and so that then opens up a massive ethical argument around, you know, how far is too far, and when do you consider that they are autonomous in their own right and that they have rights in their own right as well, if you've created an artificial intelligence.
Yep.
So there's a massive ethical argument around that at the moment as to, and that's why a lot of these movies, this one, the new Matrix movie, and another one that's coming out sort of middle of next year, they're all around that. They're all around that whole concept of when is the artificial intelligence actually then considered to be sentient and needs to have its own rights.
What's the one coming
If
out
there's any
next
Star
year?
Trek fans among you, there's Data.
It hasn't been named as yet. It is still pretty much like it is for our like sort of fan base of being in the conceptual stage, but it's actually been written by a bunch of gamers. So it'll be interesting to see where they take it, because there's a whole gaming community at the moment that is arguing that if the games are getting to the point where like the whole concept of Free Guy is, which is actually becoming scarily quite true, when is it that that game is then considered sentient and that you should be protecting it a little bit more than what's happening at the moment? So,
Yep.
yeah,
That,
interesting.
the idea of artificial intelligence and artificial entity and all that kind of stuff is something that's addressed in science fiction series by Michael Anderle, the Arthurian Gambit, of which Craig Martell, who's been a guest
Of Vera's.
of ours on previous conventions, and he does a
Oh, the
series.
author?
Pardon?
He's an author, right?
Yes.
And
Martell.
he does the series Judge, Jury, and Executioner, which is an offshoot of the Arthurian Gambit. And that is one of the things that they address, and they finally consider them as sentient in artificial intelligence. It's kind of interesting.
But legally, I can't imagine how you'd handle that in a courtroom, how you'd handle it constitutionally.
Yeah, but it's conversations that need to start happening, especially because obviously I've changed career because I got severely assaulted by a patient. I used to be a nurse, these conversations need to start happening because we have the capability at the moment because of the space race and the race to get off the planet for so many people to actually grow humans outside of human bodies now. And we have the ability to create artificial intelligence that can walk, talk, breathe, and walk around amongst us.
Oh,
The
I didn't know we were
conversations
allowed to
need
do that in the
happen.
United States right now.
You're not, but it's happening in countries where they can.
Yep.
I know that there's a guy that
Have
has,
rules there, and you might have rules that you think you're living by, but there are countries in the world that don't. China being one of them. Several of the Indian nations have the same rules that they can do whatever they want over there. They've already grown babies to 9 months and born with no human involved in artificial wombs.
wow,
So it's conversations that need to start happening before it gets out of control overseas as
I'm
well.
surprised I haven't heard much about it because that's what I do is science. I do compliance for science. I'm a compliance
To a large
officer.
extent, your government keeps it hidden from you.
Wow. I didn't think I was
I
one of the
hate to
ones that was
say
able
that.
to
I
decide
hate to sound condescending because obviously we're from a different country, but it's censored what comes into you for what's going on elsewhere in the world, where Australia has trade with these countries and has bigger partnerships with these other countries. So we get they're like literally saying, yeah, look, hey, look what we're doing. This is great. Look, see, here it is, because we'd like more funding.
I read about, I can't remember if it was a Chinese scientist or Japanese or South Korean, I really can't remember, who was cloning, I think, a human, and that made the headlines about 2
here in
years.
I know the
Australia,
Japanese do dogs.
Yeah, this was not that.
they've cloned a
This
human.
was a human.
They've cloned several humans.
Yeah.
We
Oh,
also
wow.
here in Australia now 3D print hearts, lungs, kidneys.
Yeah, we're allowed to do that.
Are you
That's
doing
done
it from
here.
human cells though, or are you still doing it from 3D printing from other stuff?
I'm not sure about the engineering of it. I just know that
Because here it's from human cells, from your own body. There's no
the
rejection
last
at all.
administration put a real kibosh on the use of stem cells.
On the,
Well,
you could just say on the use of
fetal stem
science
cells.
and
Fetal
leave it at
stem
that.
cells. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or
Well,
good.
here it's
yeah,
harvested from you. It's not stem cells from anyone else. It's from you. We harvest your own stem cells. We take
Right, we
them,
found out that you don't need to use embryonic stem cells, that
Right.
regular stem cells can be found. I mean, the
Mhm.
younger you are, the more lush you are with stem cells.
We've
but-
done it for a 90-year-old man here. He's in recovery at the moment.
No, you can do it, yeah. And
And he's
the
fine. Less rejection drugs, less side effects, less problems. He's not had any rejection at all for the heart.
What did
We're
they,
not
what did they,
expecting
Wow,
it.
that's awesome.
what did they transplant?
Bone marrow from his hip joint. So we took bone marrow, basically spin it down, take out the stem cells, then take those stem cells, grow them, and then
Yeah, but into what? What was he?
in cell culture.
What
His
was his
heart.
problem?
we grew a new heart for him.
You actually grew a heart organ.
Yeah,
Yeah,
grew it,
once
well,
you-
3D printed technically, but yeah, we grew the stem cells and then 3D printed it into a heart.
Okay.
You have to train the cells
transplanted it
into
his
what
body.
kind of tissue you want them to be.
Right. That would
But
be the.
She's
I
right, you
would think.
could do that. It's the
We've done
Yeah.
it
capability. I didn't know anybody had actually done it.
I didn't know
several
anyone had actually done it, and I can't imagine why it wouldn't make headlines, because look at the first heart transplant in
COVID.
South Africa.
It's
You know,
COVID.
that made huge headlines back in what, 1972 or something like that.
Pre-COVID, it would have. COVID is like the headline everywhere. Nothing makes headlines anymore.
Oh, I don't know that
Literally
that's
nothing.
true. I think there are a lot of headlines still. I don't think COVID is the only headline.
Yeah.
Even here in Australia, it's not making headlines here because everyone's obsessed with COVID and COVID beds and whether or not there's enough ICU beds and all of those things. Nobody cares about the other stuff at the moment. Funding is difficult at best to get for other things.
And unfortunately, we're going to be more proactive as far as rights and so forth. It's going to end up being reactive when something bad happens. And that's just the way
Right.
human nature is.
Yep.
When something bad happens, then, oh my gosh, we got to do something, we have to do it now. In as far as the artificial intelligence, I mean, we've seen it in lots of popular science fiction with Data. Was the episode, is he a person
Yep.
or not?
Yeah, that's what Mary was mentioning earlier was about Data.
You
I
know,
think it
so
was- I think it was at the last discussion we had, a couple months ago when we had the TagCon. Somebody mentioned they had been reading the book A Long Way to an Angry Planet, Small Angry Planet. Somebody in this group mentioned it. And I've been listening to that series, and it's very interesting as far as sentient AI and all of that kind of thing. I don't know if it was one of you that mentioned it, but somebody in the group had mentioned it, and I wrote it down and have been listening to that series.
I remember that.
What was it called again?
The first book of the series, it's Becky Chambers is the author, and it's the first book of the series is A Long Way to a Small Angry Planet. I'm now on, I just had to look it up to see, because it's kind of an awkward name, but I'm on the second book of the series now, and I'm quite enjoying it.
Cool.
Another thing to add to the to-be read list.
Yeah, to the massive things I want to read list. Yeah.
I have one
Guys,
coming
I
out
gotta
on,
say
I have
goodnight.
one coming out on Tuesday that I've been waiting for quite some time.
What
And
is
what
that?
book is that?
Go tell the bees that I'm gone.
Don't go tell the bees I'm
Go
gone.
tell the bees that I am gone. It's book number 9 of the Outlander series.
Oh, I've been watching that, not reading it, unfortunately.
Reading it
Me
is
too,
much
yeah.
better.
I know it is with most
Okay.
things, but
Is
I
that
have a
you?
hard time turning that over now to reading rather than watching.
They also have audiobooks.
The reader is actually really good.
Yeah, it's on my list, but I
The
can't.
narrator is
Bumping
I'm
it.
told is very good. Like I said, I'm not a big audiobook person. I mean, on a long trip, I can maybe listen to a book, but other than that, my attention wanders too much.
I still
Yeah, well,
say
I
it
haven't-
saves me at night.
I haven't been listening to that. I've been watching it.
Well, and then, and the series is good.
Mhm,
I do enjoy the series. That's how I got started on it.
mhm.
But I've read all the books. I have them on Kindle. I can't afford the hardbacks. They're rather expensive, as most hardbacks are. Plus, I just don't have the space anymore for all my books. But I can have 1,000 or more books on my iPad, and all I have to do is carry my iPad, and I don't have to carry my library around with me.
Come
That's
here.
one of the nice things about ebooks.
Yeah,
Oh,
I-
yeah, definitely.
I
can-
used
I
to
can
think
take my
couldn't
whole
get
library
used
with me
to
now. Come
holding
here.
an ebook instead of a real book, but I got used to it.
I didn't think I'd like the e-readers either until I was stuck in an airport for 6 hours.
Yeah.
I was
Come
like,
here, Andy.
I think I love this thing now.
Yeah, I think I've gotten used to it. I do like certain covers that make it easier to hold it more like a book. But
Yeah.
I read 100% from my phone now on a screen this big. This is how I read
I
books.
like that best,
I'm too
I
old to
actually
do that.
do.
You guys are young enough to do that. I'm telling you, I'm way older than all of you.
I don't think
I'm
you're,
76.
yeah, well, I'm 67.
Yeah, but I can't read on my phone. I mean, I have to.
Oh God, not on my phone. That's hard to
Well,
do.
that's what
I
she
prefer
said.
the
I like
iPad.
reading on my phone. It's just, I don't know, it's just zip, zip, zip.
And I have the Kindle app on my iPad, but I much prefer it on the reader itself, just the Kindle itself.
Yeah, it's less bright.
I have the Kindle app on my laptop, my iPad, and my phone. If I'm working, I'm reading on my phone. Because that, and usually when I'm reading at work, I'm not supposed to be reading it. It's, okay, don't you need to go clean up the kitchen? Okay, go clean the kitchen, and I'll sit and I'll read until you done yet? Unless I've got to, oversee them cleaning the kitchen.
Yeah, I don't read well on my phone.
I'm waiting for the new phones to come out with eye tracking so that I don't have to keep doing this. That's what I want.
I didn't even know
That would
that
drive
was
me
a thing.
crazy.
I don't think it is.
I
I
mean,
think it's
they
probably
can track
4 or
your
5
eyes, they can
generations
do a lot
away.
more.
Yeah.
Probably two more
2
phones.
generations away. Yeah. And I would like my RF chip as well too. That would be nice. I'd like that.
You would like what?
Well, did you get vaccinated?
An RF chip. I have an
RF
RF ring.
Yeah.
Well,
But-
haven't you been vaccinated? Don't you know they've chipped you by now?
Right? Yep. That's
Yeah.
clearly why I want it, right? The vaccine put that desire in me.
Yeah, totally.
After
Here in
getting security
Canada,
clearance, I decided that the people that thought I was getting nanobites put into my vaccination, I said, if there's something the government doesn't know about me at this point, they're welcome to it. Because the packet for the security clearance was, yay big, and it was just kind of like, did you ever, would you ever, might you ever, could you ever?
Mm-hmm.
And some of the things you're like, might I do what? No, I might never, I will not know.
Yeah,
They
look, you
want to know.
carry
They
your
know.
microchip with you. These are a microchip that you're carrying them with you. You paid for the privilege of carrying it with you. Why would they bother
Exactly,
putting it in a vaccine? More to the
Yeah,
point,
that's one of the ones that-
nurse, sitting there trying to make sure you got the
Yeah,
nanobot out of
I
every
can't
dose,
read from
because
it, but
4
it's right
doses in
here.
the vial. That would
Most
be
of the
fun.
people
I told
giving
one
the
of my kids
shots are not even medical people. They're
The
pharmacy
trouble is there
students.
are some that are actually medical people, which is really concerning to me. It's like, what the hell? Like, how
Very
can
scary.
you say that stuff? Like, there is actual medical people here in Australia that have been disbarred because they've been saying some pretty out there stuff that you just look at and go, what? You did your training. How can you possibly be so stupid?
I know there's a few doctors in the US that have lost their medical privileges, but not nearly enough of them have, because there's just too, I want to go, like, did you pay attention in school? How do you-
Yeah, that's right. It's like, how much did you pay for your degree? Because you clearly didn't do any of the classes.
Uh-huh.
Clearly you paid someone else to do your assignments, because you should know that stuff. It's pretty
Well,
basic.
but that sometimes the person that disagrees the most is right. I mean,
sometimes
there was that doctor in Vienna in the late 1900s who reduced the amount of maternal postpartum maternal death by dipping his hands in 10% bleach and rubbing them around a little bit. But because he was Jewish, nobody would listen to him.
Mhm.
And he ended up killing himself because he couldn't get anyone to listen to him.
Yeah,
He was
I mean, look,
right.
there are occasions when
The
yes,
dissenting
it
voice.
does happen, but it's with what they're saying at the moment, though.
No, I
you
agree with
kind
you.
of- You kind of look at it and say it's very, very, very unlikely that they're right. I mean, as you know, even just a common lay person, how the hell would you draw up nanobots into every single dose from a vial when you've got to draw out at least 4 to 6 doses from that vial?
I told
There's
some
no way
friend of-
possible.
I told some friend of a friend that it wasn't nanobots, that it was leptons. That they got them out of the super collider and put them in the vaccine. And they
as long
believed it. I was
As long
like,
as
no,
it's
no, I was
expanded in the
kidding.
dose and it's easy to pull up, we sure.
That was a science joke.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm a former tennis player and a big tennis fan, and there's a lot of news about tennis right now regarding what's going on in Australia. Yeah, it sounds like you guys are still more closed up than anywhere in the US. Is that true?
No tennis?
Yep, very much so.
Can't even play
Pardon me?
onesies?
What did you say?
I said they can't even play onesies? One person against the other? I mean, you're so far apart.
You can. It's
Well,
not like,
it's not that they're complaining about tennis and COVID. It's just that there's a lot of news in the tennis world regarding Australia, and because the
Australia's
next
gonna
major tournament is going to be there.
Yeah,
and,
and,
and and they're talking about
yeah, and
the
because people
situation
can't-
there.
Yeah, you
Not
cannot
because
get
they're
in
worried
unless you
about
prove
COVID
that
and
you're
playing
double
tennis.
vaxxed, which is what everyone's cracking mental about. You cannot come in or out of Australia unless you prove that you're double vaccinated. And then, you know, it's down to the
You
fact
can't work
that-
where I do unless you've had all three.
Yeah, the thing is, it's the same here. Unless you're double vaxxed, pretty much everything's.
Well, and I think now it's going to be 3
lockdowns to
vax.
lockouts.
I think they're going to say 3 now.
I
Bruce
feel
and
like
got
I feel like I
still-
need a tag like my dog that just says, you know, I've had my shots.
That's what the
But I mean,
card's
it is
for.
interesting, the differences in the United States,
Is it-
just from
is it
state to state.
not electronic the same as it is here, that it's literally on your phone. You just bring it up on your phone.
That's what
And-
we have in Canada now, or in Ontario.
Yeah, like when
Huh.
you do your QR code check-in, because you've got to check in everywhere, it literally just shows them a green tick to say that you've been vaccinated.
Yeah, they don't,
I had
they're
to,
not doing that here.
I went
Oh,
to a performance at, actually to go see Neil deGrasse Tyson earlier this
Ooh.
week. And that you had to either bring your vaccination card, excuse me, or prove that you had a negative COVID test within the previous 72 hours. I just brought a picture of my card. So as I took pictures of it with my iPhone so I could get to it easily and then I don't lose my actual card. And
You
yeah.
get a digital one in some
I did that.
states.
Yeah,
Well,
Florida doesn't have that, so
don't either.
because Florida
Arizona
is
doesn't either
idiots.
have pictures of mine.
Yeah, so Florida just banned having any mask mandates again, and they
Oh, wow.
banned having vaccine mandates that employers cannot require you to get vaccinated.
Well, the
Because
feds, they
DeSantis is
can't make a
such
law
such a
that,
smart guy.
they can't make a law that is less than the requirement of the federal.
Oh, yes,
Government.
they do it all the time. And then it
can
goes to
do
the courts
that.
and they argue it. And in the meantime, they can keep you from doing all kinds of stupid stuff. It's just insane.
They could lose federal funding for different things, but it happens all the time in the United States that a state will have a, well, for instance, seatbelts, when they first were a federal, they were tied to federal funding for highways.
Yes,
And a state could have a law that said you didn't have to wear a seatbelt or just fail to have any kind of seatbelt law, but they would lose all their federal highway money if they did
Right.
that. So that really kind of forced states to step up and eventually get the laws that they needed in order to keep their federal funding.
Or, just look at Texas and the Roe v. Wade thing, that Texas is like, yeah, we don't like that law, so we're gonna make our own. No, you're not
Now
supposed to be
it'll
able to do that.
fight
I
its way
met
through
I
court.
met Sarah Weddington, the lady from Texas that tried Roe versus Wade.
Mhm.
She was an amazing person. She was at a conference for women with non-traditional jobs.
Hmm.
And at the time I had an incredibly non-traditional job. And she had some advice that I've passed on to every woman that's had a non-traditional job after that. But she was brilliant.
Sorry, ladies, I'm going to interrupt for just a moment because Harriet's trying to log into the Zoom chat and she can't get in. Is she sitting in a waiting room somewhere? She's on the Astra Demon
Yes.
You shouldn't be.
saying that she can't get in.
She's in Discord and that's where she tried to come in from.
No, she just posted to the Astra Demon Shoelace link, struggling to log into Zoom chat.
She needs to go onto Discord. she may not realize.
Okay, I'll text her.
Is,
Yeah, no.
is she on the right one? Because the waiting, I disabled the waiting room.
Okay. Well, hopefully she'll
She
get in.
should have
Sorry,
gotten
Sarah.
an email.
Sarah.
She should have gotten an email, right, Terry, today? I got a couple of emails today.
Yeah, but that's just reminding everybody to go to the Discord link. Yeah.
Well, I know, but she should have gotten that and
Yeah,
that
but
should have
if
let
you-
her.
I nearly made this mistake. If you open Discord first and you're not looking for that link, then you don't see it. That may be what she's doing.
Yeah, she has to go
You
to the
gotta go to that link.
to the
Yeah,
November. She needs
November,
to
yeah.
in Discord go
Took me a
down.
minute to
Right,
find it.
Right, and that, I bet that's what she's doing.
Okay, well, I'll see if she answers me.
Okay.
Carry on. Sorry, Sarah. I just don't want anybody to be stuck in the waiting room or something like that.
Oh,
No,
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 thanks,
no.
Ricky.
The most important piece of advice you give to women is
Yeah, right.
Oh, but just in non-traditional jobs. She
In any
said
job.
that her advice was that you can't ask the system to change because you decided to show up. And that you have to play their game because the only way to make change is from the inside. And
Get inside first.
so like I worked for the police department at the time. So she said, would you get mad at your brother if he said this word? No. She said, well, then you can't go running to the EEO and complain that one of the guys you works with said that. And so her thing was to try and become inclusive in their situation, because like she said in Texas, that men made a lot of business decisions when they went shooting.
Yep.
And that here in Arizona, it's golfing. And there used to be rules, and there still are some unspoken rules that women aren't allowed on the greens until after 11, which keeps you out of a lot of business conversations that you could be a part of. So her thing was to try and participate. Even she said, I wasn't particularly interested in shooting, but I went to the range and I learned to be a good shot because I wanted to be in the conversation, in the room, at the table. And so her thing was you needed to find out what that was where you are. And she said in that you can't make a fuss when you get there and ask them to change everything because you're a girl.
Well, okay. So first of all, would I get mad if my brother said some of the same stuff that the people at work say? Absolutely. I'd punch him. But that's the, because my brother's a moron. Okay. But so for me, not a good example, but I do know what you're saying though. And we have a hard time sometimes explaining that exact concept to the people who are in their 20s, because they want to come along and go, well, I don't think that I should have to dress, this way for business. So, you should change the rules to suit me. It's like, no, that's not how that always works. Just because you're young doesn't mean that everybody else is going to change to suit you. There are some times where, you might have good ideas about things because, you think about it a different way, but that doesn't mean that everything needs to change to match the young people. It's like, yeah.
No, I agree.
generational,
There's some
though.
things they need to, but I thought that she said that it wasn't something that you should carve into a stone like Hammurabi. She just said that it was a way of thinking about things when you're working in a man's job. A traditional
Learn to lower yourself to their level and speak on their level. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, I didn't realize it for months, but there was on the whiteboard at the station, they had a box in the corner, and there was a count on it: 1, 2, 3, 4, cross 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, cross 5. I didn't know what it was. Nobody told me. Finally, one of the chiefs came in and he said, "What the hell are you guys counting?" "Oh, we're counting the number of books that Ryan reads. She reads books without pictures." Okay.
Without pictures.
Yeah,
I guess that was a big deal.
That was the worst thing they could think of to write about me, was how many books I read. And I read them because they were just annoying as all get out. Sometimes.
You gave them something else to do.
So to ignore them, I always had a book with me so that I could do something besides listen to them be crass.
12-year-olds. They were being 12-year-olds.
Yeah, I never worked with people that were outright crass but you know, I
Oh, thank
definitely,
God.
there was an old boy network in my department for sure. And interestingly, working in public health, where the majority of the people, the professionals were women, and not just nurses, but epidemiologists and nutritionists and health educators, you name it. Most were women, but when you looked at the hierarchy, most were men. It was very interesting and very clear that you needed to be on the inside with those guys in order to move ahead.
Hi, Harriet.
Oh,
Hey, Harriet.
well, they're not on just yet. They're almost there.
Oh, connecting to audio.
It's also because men don't take breaks that they end up in management much quicker than females,
Oh,
because
that's just such a,
Well, I never took a break.
Me
I didn't
either.
have children,
but
so.
they don't generally take time off for like maternity leave and those
No,
sorts
that's
of
right.
things,
I
so they
had
progress
a
quicker.
battalion chief, I called in and he asked me, I said, I said, Captain.
Good morning, Harriet.
Oh, is that your baby? Oh, sweetie. Aw.
It's Jared Eisen. It's very early for us, so it's so.
No kidding. You said you were getting up at 5 or something?
But I'm so happy that I'm in. Sorry that I cut somebody off that was busy talking.
No, you're right. All good. All good. Welcome.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Ricky, for trying to help me.
No problem.
Ricky did, yeah. Glad
Did
you
you have
made it.
to, sometimes when you join not Facebook, Zoom from an iPad, you have to manually type in this 20-digit password. I've had that a few times too. It doesn't automatically populate it.
Yeah.
I think that's what
I
happened.
did it. I'm on my laptop, but
Oh.
it still asked me for the password, and it's just impossible to type that embedded password out. But in the end, I just did it.
You
That's
shouldn't have to use the password.
No.
You use the link only.
You should just click on it.
You
and
just
it
click
should
the
just
link
take you.
on
just
Discord.
You
I
don't
did.
cut and paste it. Okay.
Did not happen this time.
Wow.
Okay, so I've seen that happen when you're accidentally a version behind on the Zoom software.
I
So-
think that is, yeah.
Hmm.
I
So that
think
that might be what happened.
Yeah.
Just have to keep reminding people to update their Zoom software because then it gets all picky about it.
Mine did update about a month ago.
Yep.
I noticed Discord needed an update when I opened it. I hadn't had it open for a while.
Yes.
Discord, Discord does that quite often.
Yeah.
That might be something that we could post in the pre-conference information that, you know, starting maybe a month ahead of time, that to be sure that you're up to date on the most current version of Discord.
Mhm.
And if you haven't been on in a while, to log on
And Zoom.
Yeah.
then
I
people
try to
would be
remind
less-
people of that whenever I send out the email reminders about the chats and things, but I'll remember to put that in there.
Well, I just thought for the conference, it would stop people from being frustrated and just giving it up as a bad job because it was too complicated. Because
Well,
I
that's
think
one
Nancy
reason-
had to help me.
Yeah.
I'm pretty Zoom savvy, but for last year, she had to help me because I just couldn't get it to work.
I remember.
It was very late for her and she still did it. And it was so kind. I still remember that kindness.
Well, that's one reason we want to do these and have these pre-con activities, is to get more people. Unfortunately, I think we're going to end up with the same group of people every month, but you know, try to get more people more comfortable with this, with the software.
We could invite some librarians.
Yeah.
No, I mean, really, they're the ones that got Harry Potter out there. If it wasn't for the librarians,
Yeah.
it would never have gone the way it did. And she's giving
That's a good
away her
idea.
first book for free. So librarians could recommend that, you know, because it's a really good, it's in the same, a very similar reading place that Harry Potter
Yes.
is.
Yes, it is, right.
And I think it's
Well, I don't know. My daughter was opposed to me having, when I tried to introduce it to the 11-year-old granddaughter, she was opposed to it. She said it was too, the topic was too adult for her.
I bet if you asked the 12-year-old, she'd disagree with you vehemently, or with her mother.
I read them to my
I'm sorry, I didn't hear
9-year-old.
you, Terry.
I said, I bet if you asked your 12-year-old granddaughter, that she would disagree with her mother vehemently.
Well, and that same 12-year-old read the series at 13, you know, when her mom would allow it. But I think you'd have to be, I think there are some parents that would not be thrilled.
I think a slightly older child than, I mean, I know a lot of
I just meant
5, 6,
similar, you
7-year-olds
know.
were being read Harry Potter. But I think the majority of people reading Harry Potter were between probably 10 and 15.
When I was that age, I was always reading the adult section of the library.
Me
Yeah,
too.
I did have to
Me
get
too.
my parents' permission to check the books out from the adult section, but they knew that I wasn't going to read anything that I didn't understand. That, you know,
When you're talking about targeting librarians, though, you have to make sure you're doing something where the parents will be okay with it.
Well, it would be young adult. These books are clearly not children's books, which I think Harry Potter,
Teenage.
at least the first few Harry Potter
I
books.
think it was only
It
the last
sort of
couple that
waffles in
weren't.
between, doesn't it?
Yeah.
no, the idea was that if you were the same age as Harry Potter when you first started reading it, you were going to grow up with Harry Potter.
Right. So at the end
Because the books
it was
came
more
out
adult.
the books came out one a year, more or less.
Yeah.
Right.
So
So
if
by
you
the time
started
you
at
got-
11, Sorcerer's Stone, or
Yeah.
for those non-Americans, Philosopher's Stone.
Because we're too dingy to know what a philosopher is.
Right. We were too stupid.
You know, it was geared for an 11-year-old, but by the time you got to the last one, you know, you were 17. So
yeah.
But thinking
read
about
them
some
in any
different
case.
ways to promote this is a good idea.
Yeah.
Well, I
Whether
didn't mean
librarians
it
or
was
some other
exactly,
way.
I just meant it was like in the same sort of, you know,
Yeah.
space.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
I was
all
gonna
of
say
us really
the
like
same-
it, but
The teenagers who are reading like the Hunger Games, and like this is the, you know, Vera's books are not at that level of violence.
gory.
That too, yeah.
I read them to my 9-year-old, but with reasonable editing for a 9-year-old. You know,
Yeah.
so
The Hunger
think
Games or
more-
Vera's books?
Vera's.
well, all of them, but
Yeah.
the Hunger Games has no sex related activity at all, too, right? So that's fine.
Right.
It's more, you know, kids can handle the
Violence.
Or that's not an issue for them for the most part. But you know, and my kids are all boys, so not only did I have to not read things, but also the things that I did choose to, I had to explain because they're little boys and they don't.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, he's 11 now, and it still requires explanation of subtle things about
Yes.
why.
well, I know my nephew said the books were they were difficult for him to read. As a 40-year-old man trying to get into the head of a 16-year-old girl.
Ha!
Okay, that was his problem. And you know, because he's thinking like a 40-year-old man. Now he did read Ace and Blue, and he said that one was, I mean, yeah, he could get
I
into
can see that appealing to men
boy.
more.
But
Yeah,
isn't it a
correct.
level of reading and emotional maturity for you to be able to play? I mean, we read books that are male point of view all the time. I feel like that just seems like a
Excuse.
immature argument would be the term I would use. Like, I don't know,
Well,
serious.
there's also the
biased
fact,
sexist
there's also the
excuse.
fact that girls will
21
play
and he
with
loves
boys'
them.
toys, but boys won't play with girls' toys.
Yeah.
There's,
Mostly.
I don't-
there's also that
okay.
fact.
I think it's a how you're brought up thing, you know, like are you brought up to say, well, boys don't read about girls, or are you brought up to say boys read about everybody just like girls read about everybody?
Definitely. My son's 21 and he loved all the series. So I think it's what they're used to. He's read extensively everything, and I've never stopped him from reading anything. I've
Yeah.
encouraged him even from a young
I
age.
would never
to read
stop at
things
yeah.
that were above his age, because why not? It'll
Yeah.
expand him.
Yeah, my mom went to Berkeley, so nothing was off the table.
Yeah.
Same. I was like, read whatever you want. I mean, I was reading Aragon series to him when he was 2 and 3.
Yeah.
So
When
there's
I was-
nothing that's ever been off the table.
That's a heavy series. We finally got through that one. Good Lord. The first book is monotonous, but if you can get through the first book, it actually really picks up speed because my mother, who was voracious, was like, I couldn't do it. I'm like, you just got to get through the first book. I promise you. There's character development that it does eventually happen, and it's good, but you got to get through the first book.
You gotta remember the kid was 16 or something when he wrote it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta give him a break. It was pretty good for a 16-year-old.
Definitely.
But there are definitely some authors that are geared towards the male mind versus the female mind.
Oh, well, yeah.
I can't read Tom Clancy.
Oh, I like
Totally.
Tom Clancy.
I have tried.
Oh no, you guys,
Movies,
come on.
the movies they've
don't
made
break
from
my
the
heart. I
books
love
are
the
fabulous, and I
Hunter
love
Red
them.
October.
I've read his books, but I only ever read them once. They're not the sort of book that I'll go back to and read 3 or 4
Yeah,
times.
no, not at
I
all.
love
I
that
can't
movie,
even get
The
through. I
Hunt
can't
for
even
Red
get through them
October.
once because it's referring back to something. What was that again? Oh yeah, you mean that it's just it's the detail orienting.
That doesn't bother me, and I love the books that he writes, but they're just not the sort of books that I'll read 2 or 3 times. I mean, things like Vera's book I've read 4 times now, and I'll probably read it again before TagCon next year, because the whole series again before TagCon next year. But
it's like I said, I don't read very many books, more than once, but I think a lot of what Nancy's saying is like, it depends on how technically oriented you are, because Tom Clancy writes very technically oriented kind of things. I went to engineering school, so that's right up my alley. So that is something that I enjoy, but I definitely, I get bogged down sometimes when I read like too many pages about how somebody's dressed or what the scenery is like, and I'm just
Or how he put the gun together, for the love of Pete.
yeah. So I think we all
You
have
can go
our
on and on about that.
we all have our thing that puts us to sleep, kind of, and it's different for everybody, which is, I think that's a great thing, because we all like different stuff. But yeah, I totally understand. The first time I read Hunt for Red October, well, rather when I went to read it, I had a whole lot of people. It was not too long after the book had come out, so the movie wasn't even thought about. And I had a couple of my friends were like, okay, look, he spends the first 100 pages explaining how submarines are built, and you need that for the rest of the book. Just keep reading. And I went, okay. And there I like about 100 pages of how submarines work, and then you get to the story. So if you can't survive that 100 pages, then that's going to be hard. Yeah, if that's not a
there's
thing.
a lot of authors that are like that, though. I mean, J.R.R. Martin's the same. It's like that whole series is like, there's 55 like pages on the grass in the background, and you're like, oh my god. We just get
Which book are you talking about?
It's like the whole.
What I hated
whole
about
series.
George R.R. Martin is that he made a point of bringing those damn wolves. What were they called?
Dire wolves.
Yeah, dire wolves, brings them in and then kills them all.
And then
Ghost is
makes
still
us
alive.
love each one individually, and then kills them off, or they just disappear, never to be heard from again.
Ghost came back, and Nymeria met up with Arya on the way back to the north.
Yeah.
But the rest of them, you're right, they did die.
Kills off Lady, kills off
that's what I
Summer,
mean.
kills off all of the other ones. Yep.
But
And I just-
look how upset you are about it, right? Good authors make you feel
I
things
know,
strongly.
but it's
the
like,
thing that upsets me the most about him is just his absolute lack of compassion for fans. Like, he has blatantly said time and time again that
I
the
will
more
finish the
fans
book.
ask for the next book, the less likely he is to ever write it. And how many years are we now past when he wrote the last one? And I think now it's gotten to the point where, myself included, and I have waited a long time for books in the past and don't have a problem waiting for an author that's genuinely got reasons for not writing a book. I'm like, cool, whatever, that's great. You just get to it when you get to it. But his statements in public about the fact that he won't write it because people have asked about it has made all of us go, I don't care what it's like, whether it's great, it's not great, we're not going to buy it. And I'm a person who has literally this year spent around $2,000 on books for gifts for Christmas, and will happily support any author anywhere in the world, but I can't support someone like him that's just so blatantly against his fan base. It's like, wow, that's who made you your money. That's who got you where you are.
that's true.
Well, and
But
then
some
you
of the fans can get really, really, really pushy about that. I can understand why an author
Look,
would
it's one thing to have, you know,
Yes.
that kind of disregard for those fans, but to then turn around and say that all his fans can go jump off a cliff, you're like, wow, okay, all right then. You do realize that when your book, and literally every book he's put out since then has just tanked because all of us are like, whatever, could
We
care
don't want
less.
to read about the Hedge Knights. We don't give a flying. We want to write the next 2 books, finish it.
But the thing is, though, that if he'd done it in the right way, it would be the same as what it is at the moment for Vera, where if you want to put out East and Blue and you want to put out East and Black and you want to put out all those other books, we're like, cool, I want to learn everything I can about the whole world. Great, yes, I want to buy that because I want to know more, because you're respecting your fans. But the second you turn on your fans, good luck selling that stuff. It ain't going to sell anywhere. Like, I've literally lined up for every single one of Vera's releases and been like, I'm buying it the second it's out as an ebook, and then the second it's available as a hardback, I'm getting it. I don't care. It costs a fortune to get them here in Australia.
I can imagine.
But I would happily pay whatever it costs because she's a great author and she respects her fans. I can't abide by an author that wants to just be that ruthless to their fans. It's like, wow, that's who got you where you are. That's who's buying what you're writing.
Yeah, I know what you're saying, Shelley, about a lot of fans seem like entitled jerks sometimes, but yeah, I think that George has gone to the entitled.
He's gone too far.
Yeah.
He's gone too far.
I've seen a few authors that are like that and a few actors that are like that they just, although I hate tremendously to quote my dad, but my dad would have said they're the kind of people who believe their shit don't stink.
Yep.
Yeah. And as in, they're better than everybody else, just ask them.
Too hot to drop.
Well, and then there are the authors that it generally takes them, I think, Diane.
That never worries me how long it takes.
It's taken her 8 years between the last book and this one.
I don't care if it takes you 10 years between books. If you're working on a book, great. It's a lot of effort to write a book. I don't care how long it takes you to, write the next one and get it out there. I will happily be there for the release of it, and I'll happily be lined up waiting with everyone else. That's not the issue. It's how you treat your fans. I mean, Clan of the Cave, there was 11 and a half years between the book that was the last one that was out and the next one that came out. I was there with bells on at 3 a.m. in the morning to buy the next one because it's like, yes, I want to know what happens and how it ends. And I didn't care. It took 11 and a half years. Clan of the Cave Bear series. There was
that's a very good series.
There was a massive gap between books, but she had genuine reasons for not writing it. She was really unwell, and it's like, cool, when you get to it, you get to it. Yay, the last book's out. But if they've got a genuine disregard for their fan base, that's different.
Well, I'm desperately
waiting.
I have totally lost interest since the TV series is done. It's just like, well, I guess that's
and that was wrapped up so poorly as well that everyone's just like, whatever.
But it's like, well, that's done. I'm done with it. I've spent my time with that.
Yeah, exactly. I wouldn't buy the last book if I literally had nothing else to read. It would be like,
son write that one?
I would be like, nope, not buying it.
Do you
I'm
buy
desperately waiting
hardbacks for all
for.
these books?
What?
Do you buy hardbacks for all these books?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I've got
I wouldn't
multiple
have
copies.
space or
I've got
money,
multiple
but
copies
space.
of Vera's books. I've actually
Even
got
if
a full set that's never been cracked open, that is pristine condition. Love to get it signed one day. I will happily come over there to a convention to get it signed, but it's pristine, never been opened. No one's allowed to touch that book. It's like the Good Lounge when my grandma was alive. It's like, don't touch, you will die.
You can mail them to Vera and she'll sign them.
Yeah,
right?
it would cost a bit though.
Yeah. And you got to pay for the return shipping too, right? Like, of
She
course.
might as well just have a suitcase and bring them.
Exactly. But
I was gonna do that, and then she started posting about how much work it was for her to get to the store to pick up her post, right? Because she wasn't feeling so great. So I'm like, oh, this is not the good time for that.
That's the reason I was like, no, I'll hold off, because I know she's got sore wrists and carrying around that many books. It's not a good thing. Like, not a good thing at all. I could
I took a dog-eared copy of a book that's one of my all-time favorites to a book signing.
Yeah.
I took a new copy as well for her to sign. But she wrote something, a whole page in the tattered one.
Oh,
She
nice.
said that it looked loved.
Yeah.
And she wrote something nice in the new one. And she said, you can keep that one on your shelf as your pristine one if you want to. But obviously you've read this book more than once. And this is the one that I want to sign.
Yeah.
I think now that book is worth, I don't know who the author was, but that book, because she signed
Ursula
it,
Le
made it
Guin.
so personal.
Oh, Ursula Le Guin's an amazing author. I can't believe
My
you
mother
managed
let
to get
me
her to
out of
sign a book.
school
I'm
for a
so
day.
jealous. I've got her whole series.
It's a first printing.
Oh my
And
God, I'm
my
so
mother
jealous.
let me out of school.
We read those
Hear
as
her
our year
speak at the
12 book.
university. I was in fourth
Wow.
grade.
Who
and
was it?
the teacher wasn't okay with that. My mother should have just said I was sick, but she wasn't big on lying.
Yeah.
So she wrote a note and said, Sarah won't be at school tomorrow. I'm taking her to an author event.
Oh wow, that's amazing. You are
That's
And-
so
I'm
cool.
jealous.
And the
I'm so
Ursula Le Guin books were meant for
Oh.
older kids, but I always read whatever I felt like.
Yeah,
And
they were amazing.
it was my copy of the Tombs of Aten
Oh.
that she signed.
Oh wow.
I liked the first one, but the one about Tenar
Yeah.
just really resonated with me.
Yeah.
And that was, I brought there were 3 at the time. And I brought all 3 books, but I had bought a new copy of the Tombs of Aten. I didn't buy it.
Yeah.
I did chores and my mother bought it for me.
Yeah.
Oh,
And well, I was only in 4th grade. There wasn't a whole lot you could do to generate cash except chores.
yeah.
And I have a lot of little brothers, so babysitting was a big deal. But yeah, she was so kind.
Wow.
And I was one of the only kids there. And she wanted to make sure I'd actually read them. She asked me some questions.
Yeah.
And I said, oh, no. No, and I really think that Ged there should have been a teacher there. Ged shouldn't have opened the door. He shouldn't have opened the split in the world and let the shadow out.
And so she was like, God damn, you definitely read it. That's a valid comment, yes.
Well, she actually asked me, if they let girls go, would you go?
Oh.
To the Isle of the Wise, and I was like, oh yeah. Mhm.
You were like,
Right
where do I
after
sign
I
up?
drove through the Phantom toll booth.
I am desperately waiting for Patrick Rothfuss to finish the Name of the Wind series. Have you read that one?
No, I don't
It
think
is
so.
brilliant. It's
Okay.
absolutely brilliant. It's very much the level and in-depthness and the intrigue and the asides and all this. It's on the same level as Vera. It's just absolutely brilliant. I can't.
Patrick who?
Rothfuss, right? Am I saying that right, Eleanor? Patrick. It's called The Name of the Wind. You just Google it, it will come up. Rothfuss, yeah.
Wow.
And he's written the first two, but not the third. And he's been sitting on the third for probably 10 years, roughly.
Ouch.
I can
and,
see
you
why
know-
you can't say his last name.
Right? Yeah, Rasmus. I've never heard anyone else pronounce it, so I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But it's if you liked if you like Beer's books, I guarantee you'll like this.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll wait till the third one comes out. That way I don't have to sit around on my thumbs and wait.
I don't know. I even with only the first two out, it's still a pull down from the shelf and read again kind of book.
Ooh.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And I like you all know, I feel like we're all pretty discerning folks in terms of our taste. You don't make that kind of claim all that often.
Yeah.
No, there's very few series that I reread several times, but yeah, there's been some.
So, Sarah, you were talking about your mom taking you to the author signing. That's cool that your mother understood about that. My dad didn't. So I grew up having this really big disconnect between books that I read that I liked and having any idea that people who were still alive had written them. So when I first got into science fiction conventions and I was like, oh, like I can actually meet these people that I've read their books, and then I'm reading these other people that are writing new ones, and I can, oh, yay. So fast forward a bunch of years, my dad had liked the books by David Weber. And I knew David, but I also ran into him at a convention, and it was near my dad's birthday, and David Weber had a new book coming out. So I bought the hardback book for my dad, and I had David Weber autograph it to him and write something nice, like happy birthday and his name. And I forget what else he wrote in it. Right. So give it to my dad for his birthday, and he opens it up, and I was like, yeah, look at the title page. And he goes, there's writing on it. Yes, Dad, look at what it says. And he goes, it's got my name on it. Yeah. And he goes, how'd you do that? I'm like, I walked up to the guy who wrote the book and said, hey, can you autograph this for my dad for his birthday? And my dad just still could not get his head around the idea that you could meet a person who wrote the book that you wanted to read. even when he was, God, how old must he have been by then? Like 60? He still couldn't figure that out. And I was like, yeah, they're actually out there. They meet people. They'll talk to you. Okay, most of them, I just thought that was like, really? Yeah. I mean, because he was genuinely surprised his name was in that book. Okay.
And it probably meant way more to him than he was able to express.
Yeah, probably. I'd like to think it did, but yeah.
Well, my grandparents lived down the street from Frank Baum.
Cool.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
So going to meet authors was, I guess, just something we all thought we could do, because I absolutely destroyed a priceless set of hardback Oz books. All my cousins helped me.
Yeah, when you were little.
But yeah, they got, just like the Velveteen Rabbit, they got loved to death.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't exactly call that destroying them, although that was the end result. Destroying them seems to have some evil connotation,
That's true. They got Velveteen Rabbit too.
Yeah, exactly. They got loved to death. It's a completely different sort of thing. Yeah.
So you're familiar with Robert Munch, right? Everybody knows who Robert Munch is. So he was my neighbor growing up. So I would play with his kids, and he would yell at us to get off the flowers. So it's funny, right? Because these authors, and we're reading Robert Munch books in school. Okay, yeah, my neighbor, fine, whatever, no big deal. Like, it didn't even occur to us that was a big deal. He's just a neighbor. Yeah, we all know Robert Munch doesn't. Well, he comes to school every once in a while and reads a book. And it really wasn't until I was so much older, out of elementary school, to be like, oh, I didn't realize he was famous,
Well, why would you?
Yeah, like, oh, yeah, he's fine. He yells a lot, if you're in his flower bed, but other than like a normal person, of course, right? A bunch of kids traipsing.
That's
Like anyone's
also
dad.
like some sports celebrities. Here in St. Louis, Stan Musial was a Miss Cardinal baseball
Mhm.
and broke a lot of records. But he's most remembered by me as owning the local bowling alley, Redbird Lanes. He bought with, after he retired, and he had bowling leagues for kids, and it was absolutely free.
Cool.
To get the kids into bowling, and then when they'd have their little bowling banquet, and he'd come and get your picture taken with him, and he was just a super nice guy. You just didn't ever think that he was famous.
Yeah, exactly, because he didn't act famous. Yeah.
No, I mean, he'd be at the bar at the bowling alley, and you could just sit and talk to him. He was just an ordinary person.
Yeah.
And
We have a friend here in town that's a writer, and he's his name is Richard, and he, how okay, so we're all at the science fiction club, and the science fiction club also helps put on a science fiction convention here in Tampa called Necronomicon, right? But the guy in question that writes, I was gonna say, how sometimes you meet people but you don't know what they do for a living. You just meet people especially at conventions or whatever, and you just go, hey, it's that person I know from the convention. And a bunch of us were sitting around one day, and we were talking about the fact that that one of Richard's books was coming out, and one of my other friends goes, Richard's a writer? The dude that walks the dog, that guy. So in her mind, that's who he was, the guy that walks the dog, because every time there was a science fiction club meeting, he was the one walking the dog. She never had put the two together, that Richard was the same dude writing books. And so unless you like reading horror or Marvel, you probably never heard of him. But so his last name is Byers. So yeah.
Ooh, good author.
And, you've heard of Richard Byers? Yeah.
Marvel fan.
Yay. And but to my friend Amy, he's the guy that walks the dog. Yeah. So
well, guys, I gotta go.
That's a pretty famous dog walker, but sure.
Guys, I gotta go because it's like after midnight and I've been up since 5:30, so I'm really tired.
Yes, Mary.
It's been fun
Well,
chatting with you.
actually, we've
And I'll
kind of
see you
gone
guys.
over and on time, so
Yeah. But
Yeah,
I'll see
we
you
are.
guys
having a
at-
good time.
Bye.
I'll see
I
you
do
guys
hope
at the trivia thing.
everyone can join
Mary.
us.
Have a happy Thanksgiving.
Okay, thanks, guys. See ya.
Yeah, happy Thanksgiving.
Bye. It's
Hey,
strange
yeah, I
to
still
think
think we
my
should
day is
revisit right
starting
before we
and your
go.
day is ending.
I gotta head out too, because it's late and I'm in Eastern Standard Time Zone, so.
Yes, it
Okay.
is late for you.
Night, Ricky.
Bye.
Night, night, Ricky.
All right, somebody was saying something about before we go.
Before we go, just a reminder that we will be having trivia on December the 4th.
Yeah.
I'll put an announcement in Facebook and on the forum probably sometime tomorrow.
I'll set it up to send out emails to the people who've registered for the convention. So yay. And so we'll just have to say 12/4 at 4,
I think it's at
remember-
4 in the afternoon Eastern time.
Yes.
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
many people do we have registered for the convention?
Last time I looked, I think it was like 85-ish.
We need more.
Well,
Oh, yeah.
sure.
I really think we should go to the librarians. I mean, even if the people here went to just their local and talked about it and said the
put
first book is free.
Yeah, I have sent them, information about Qualify and the series, but
Is
I
anybody in
don't know
the
if
group
we've done
a
anything.
librarian?
No, but I do have a friend who is actually a publisher and an author in her own right. I will have a talk to her later tonight. She's based in Cotswold in England. I'll have a talk to her later tonight. She might be amenable to putting it up on her websites and stuff, which would give you a huge amount of exposure because a lot of her books are pretty much worldwide as well. So she's got a huge fan base, probably bigger than Vera even, because she does like other authors' work as well. So I can have a talk to Michelle and see if she'll be agreeable to putting it up on hers.
Yeah, the trouble with the Vera's fan base right now, I think, is that it's circular. It's the same people over and over again.
Static, actually. It's just the same people. It's static. It's not growing.
Right. I mean, it's growing a little bit, but it's not like, you know, it went through a couple of real growth spurts as the books were coming out.
I was going to say it's also very cyclic, that it gets a lot
Yeah.
more interest when it's time for a book to come out, and then in between the interest sort of wanes.
That's
So we should be
every author as well, though. I know with Michelle, she's
Yes.
just now she's putting another book out, and suddenly it's like there's all these extra people have now suddenly come back to the page that had kind of waned off as well. So you get the ones that are solid the whole way through, but then there's ones that will wane off and then come back when a new book or something is out. I can certainly have a torch about getting it out on her site as well, though, because that would reach a bigger amount of people even than Facebook. So,
Well, and on Facebook, there are I think there's, I want to say about 2,000 that are signed up as fans, but maybe 10 or 12 that are active. So, I mean, you're not, you know, everyone's, I mean, I'm on different groups and I'm not active on all of them. I mean, I'll read them, but I mean,
yeah, you're not always going to interact with every group that you're actually in, though.
No.
Plus, Facebook is so weird about, well, if you haven't looked at that page I shouldn't say looked at it. If you haven't liked enough posts on a page, then it quits showing you the posts. Because I realized that the other day that I was like, I haven't seen a post from one of my friends on a different page. And it's like, sure enough, she'd been posting. It just hadn't shown it to me because I hadn't liked enough of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, the algorithms will kick you off.
Yeah.
But it'll keep showing you something that you looked at once. Like if you go off and you look at a guitar for your nephew for Christmas.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden the whole side of your Facebook is filled with buy a guitar, buy a guitar, buy a guitar.
Yeah. Or sometimes the other thing that happens to me is like, great, yes, I read that post 5 days ago. Thank you. I don't need to keep seeing it every day.
There's been a lot of older posts lately, it seems like.
I think what the group needs is also on Facebook is that more posts about the books to keep the interest alive, because many of us reread the books and see new things. I always check, is nobody, catching up on something or found something in the book interesting, just to keep the interest alive.
Well, you can always post something that you found interesting too. It's not just the admins that can post things.
I don't want people to get fed up of my name popping up there on the post.
No, we need people
How about a challenge to read a certain about a certain character or something and get some, with like something obscure that we have to search for. I don't mean in a trivia contest, but just on one of the one of the Facebook groups saying, who can find why so-and-so did this, and maybe it'll get people looking again.
That's an idea.
I don't know. I'm just trying to think of what we could do.
What turned Claudia into a decent human being?
Yeah.
And there's nothing to say that you guys can't post that. Because we all, we're not, most of us are still working. There's a few of us that aren't, like Shelley.
Yeah.
Not pointing fingers at anyone.
Well, I told you I'm retired and I'm
I'm-
old,
not
but
that
I have
I'm-
8 grandchildren that practically live in my house. So,
And, and
It's like
we
a
also
full-time job.
we also have the forum.
yeah.
And the forum is a bit daunting for some folks. But
Yeah, I mean, maybe some of us that are actually like looking at doing craft projects and those sorts of things, particularly when it comes to like what I said about, doing the Easton's hand, maybe I can put a post up there and say, what flowers do you think based on where you are would be the ones that would be similar?
Yeah.
Try and get
I
people
like that
involved
idea.
a little bit more, because like even if we get 2 or 3 different suggestions, I can potentially do all 3 and say, look, based on your region, this is what it would look like. Maybe try and get them a little bit more involved that way and say, look, based on where you are compared to what's in the book, what flowers would you think would be used? Try and get them to start thinking a little bit more, because they'll have to reread it to figure it out.
Yeah. I also, that made me think like we could ask questions like, okay, what would you wear to the yellow dance, or what would you wear to the, the green dance, or,
What do you
things like
think
that.
we should save? What from your city are the top 5 things that you should save?
Like landmarks and things. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Oh yeah, I like that. What would you send
that's a
to
good idea.
Atlantis on the ARC ship? Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really cool idea, because that will get people engaged with thinking about, what they want on there and what should be sent.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
And because people could think locally about it,
Yeah.
and it would be kind of interesting.
Yeah, well, because you get like a really cool idea of what they've got geographically for landmarks and stuff as well, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I was going to say it must be getting close to 12:30, because I'm now being visited by 2 kitty cats who are staring daggers at me.
Yeah, I had to step away to let the dog out. If I
Yeah,
had
it's only
done that,
10:30 here, but I've gotten the evil eye from the husband, so I better.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, it is getting late
11:30
even
here.
for the early people.
So he asked me tonight, so you want to go on Zoom and talk with other people that read the books that you already read?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. That's how that works. Yeah.
About the books.
I particularly like these books, so I want to talk to these people. Thank you very much.
Exactly. Well, since we've been sitting here, I have crocheted about this much of the scarf.
Wow.
it's
All right.
Well done, you.
Very
It goes pretty quick. So
What do you use a scarf in Florida?
No, well, this one's really lightweight, so on the cool days, but it's like we jokingly call the 2 days of winter, but I'm probably gonna just sell this one. So yeah, I make stuff to sell. I've got a couple of shawls I'm selling and baby blankets and things like that. I also make jewelry and sell that. So
Come and say hi to the ladies. Come here.
Yeah, now my dog's
Listen.
barking to get in.
Listen, where's your toy?
Come
Toy.
So were
Wait,
there
wait.
any announcements before I got
Oh
on?
my goodness.
Say hi to my baby. This is Petra.
Let's see,
Petra.
we missed the
What is
announcement.
Petra?
Harriet, we are going to do
Okay, I hope you enjoyed that. There's no more. It's all gone.
on December 4th. It'll be 4 o'clock Eastern, so I'm not sure what time. That'll probably be like in the middle of the night for you.
4 p.m. Eastern time.
No,
Probably be-
that's a perfect time.
Midnight.
Oh, okay.
Is there a good time where Vera can come?
I suffer from insomnia. So it's very difficult. So I go to bed at 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. And then for me, this morning to get up at 4, 5 o'clock, it's just, I just sort of went to bed.
Yeah.
And that's the next thing that we've got going. The audiobook is scheduled for December 7th. I did forget to tell everyone that Vera said to give everyone her love.
I thought you said it was December 4th.
Hmm?
Did you say December 7th or December 4th?
4th is the trivia, and 7 is the audio book for Ace and Blue.
Okay.
Yeah. And then the companion book could be anytime now, just about, but it will be.
Companion book will be probably 2 to 3 weeks,
Yeah.
maybe longer, depends on.
Oh, I
she's-
thought you said Thanksgiving.
Potentially.
That's
That's the
not going to
earliest.
happen.
No,
Okay.
it'll be after that, but it
Yeah, I was
might.
gonna say, considering Thanksgiving's less than a week away, I don't think
Yeah,
it's
no,
gonna
it
make
won't be
Thanksgiving.
then. It won't be then.
Because
It'll
what
be before the end of the year,
I think
though.
I
To let
said
you
the
know,
audiobook could be
to
as
let you
soon
know
as then.
what happens with any of Vera's books, because she does self-publish. Once she's finished, it has to go for editing. And her betas who do her editing have to go through it and then give suggestions, make sure of continuity and there's no typos and so forth. And that takes a week, sometimes longer. And then from that point, then she pulls it all back together, and then she could publish it.
Same process as what my friend Michelle goes through, because she self-edits or like basically self-publishes all her own books. So same process. It is a lengthy process to get them from that when they're finished until when they're actually published.
Well, for indie authors, it's not as lengthy as someone who does traditional publishing. That can take months.
Yeah, no, it's usually like 2 to 3 weeks, but
Yeah, the traditional process has gotten faster over the years, but yeah, it still
So
takes.
you
a
are
while.
thinking still by the end of this year, before the end of this year for the companion book.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Vera says she's about 80% done. She still has to do some scanning of some drawings. She has, and then she'll do something, oh, I need to put more in this, or, oh, I forgot about this. And I mean, the book that she's taking all these notes from is about,
well, she's got, binders.
about this big, wouldn't you
Oh,
say?
is it her symbol? It's her Silmarillion.
Yeah, it's about this big.
What did you
At
say?
least
Sarah?
a three, at
I
least
said,
a
is
three
it
or
her
four.
Silmarillion?
I don't know how
Oh,
she
yeah,
do
like
it.
a Silmarillion, yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, Shelley said something a second ago, and I realized that yeah, Shelley had mentioned the Thanksgiving date earlier about something, but that was the audiobook is supposed to come out 12/7, but it might get released early and be available at Thanksgiving. That was the Thanksgiving thing.
That was the Thanksgiving, not the companion.
Not the companion book. Yeah.
Whoa, that's almost as good as pecan pie.
Yeah, definitely.
And you guys will like the narrator on for the male book.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it's a different narrator for Ace and Blue.
Yeah,
I have to listen to his voice.
narrator.
It's very cultured type of voice.
It's very pleasant male voice, definitely.
He doesn't sound the way Asen sounded in my head.
No,
Well-
not at me at all. Not at all. But I don't think that matters.
But it's fine.
Because he's a boy.
It does sound cultured and somebody upper class, so that's important. So,
And he will hopefully be narrating all the male point of view books.
How did Vera go with Kemji? Did he settle?
Sort of.
Sort of.
That's still in progress.
He let her-
Just got him.
He has let her in the bathroom twice now without hiding.
Oh wow.
He has
Okay.
stayed
So
put-
slow progress.
Right, he has stayed put where he's out, but laying down, and he has let her walk right by him without him jumping and hiding or doing anything. So that's big progress.
That is big progress. That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And it is a boy. She saw the.
it's a
part.
boy.
saw the
balls.
balls.
I was
It's a
happy
funny
about it.
post.
He's got balls.
Well, happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
You too, for
Happy
those
Thanksgiving.
for those who
For those that celebrate.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's such
Does
an
South
American
Africa have
thing.
anything like
It
that?
is an American
We
thing.
don't have anything like that.
No,
Not
same.
even close.
It's such a wonderful holiday for Americans, and I know Canadians have one in October, but
Yeah.
it's probably one of my favorites, and I like it as much when I do it with friends. Which
And
I'm
it's
doing
less
this year.
commercialized than the others.
Yes,
I
and it's
just
about
like it because of the
good
food.
and good food and good friends or family if you're lucky enough to have good family.
Yep.
Or as we like to say sometimes, you get to spend it with the family that you like instead of the one you were born into.
The family you choose.
Yes, exactly.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Well, you can have it twice. We are.
Oh yeah, definitely. When I was growing up, we pretty much did Christmas twice too, just because of, my parents were divorced. And so we'd have to do, parent A's Christmas and then go to their, the grandparents there and then the other grandparents. And then, so Christmas happened about 3 times. Yeah.
I did shift work and so did one of my brothers. And so we had to work around who could be there.
Yeah.
One Christmas when my daughter was about 6 and it was still magical.
Mhm.
I worked what they call a backwards 36. So I worked on the 23rd, I worked from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. And then I worked all day on the 24th.
Wow.
And we didn't get one break on the 24th. We went call after call after call after call. And at about 10 after midnight, we were driving past one of the churches. And my partner, he said, "This is going to sound really dumb, but do you want to slip into midnight mass?" And I said, "Yeah, I kind of do." So
I gotta go. My dog is barking and barking outside. Have a
Okay.
good night.
Okay. Bye, Kathleen.
Bye. Nice
Bye-bye.
to see you.
I better go too. I've been getting a hairy eyeball and I talk too much.
So anyway, you went to mass. You got to finish that.
Oh, and I didn't realize some of my cousins were there. And the Monsignor stopped the whole thing because he thought we were there for a call.
Oh,
You were police.
And he said,
Right.
"Everybody please sit down and
fire
wait
department.
until they've finished." And Rick, my partner, wouldn't say anything. He was just like, but since I knew Monsignor Hughes, I said, I'm sorry, Monsignor, we just have been working all day and we're still on duty. Is it okay if we just sit in the back if we're quiet?" And he stopped everything and had somebody pray, the whole place pray for us,
Wow.
which was nice.
Didn't you say you were in the fire department or were you, is that what
Please.
you were doing?
I was a paramedic first and then I went to work for the police department as a paramedic.
Paramedic. Okay.
Yeah, I get to work on the helicopter. It was a lot of fun.
Cool.
Yeah, I've done retrievals. It's great fun being in the
Well, I
helicopter.
joined them because I wanted to do canine, but then they
Um,
got this $8 million grant that they could have if they just had a girl on the helicopter. And so I got voluntold that that's what I was doing.
All right.
Sounds about right.
So I got sent to a lot of meth houses and a lot of,
Oh God. Yeah.
well, because of my science degree.
Yeah.
The thing is, people that make methamphetamine don't label their stuff. They don't follow OSHA guidelines. So they're
Imagine
pointing at,
that.
like, they're pointing at a clear beaker with nothing on it. And they're like, "Hey, what's that?" I said, "Don't touch it."
Yeah.
"Oh, what is it?"
Don't
Don't
breathe
touch
it.
it.
Don't touch it.
Yeah,
like-
it's don't touch it. Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah.
That's exactly
And
what,
don't breathe
that's
it.
the name of the chemical. And all of those beakers with nothing in them, with no name on them, that it's called, well, why don't you smell it? No, I won't.
No, don't.
All of you
smell it.
need to get out of here. We went to one where they set a booby trap on the door. So the door, if you opened it, had a bucket, and the bucket had a rattlesnake in it that would fall on your head.
At least it was
That was a
rattlesnake.
super day.
It was acid here in Australia that got dumped on the head of a few police officers at a meth house that they busted.
Yeah, they do that
Had a
too,
vat
but the
of acid
rattlesnake was
above the
just,
door.
that one was my personal bête noire. I came very close to peeing myself.
Can
Yeah,
imagine.
I can. I don't mind snakes, but I also don't want to have one unexpectedly dumped on my head. Yeah.
Especially a viper. Yeah.
Mhm.
An
I
angry
mean, if it
viper.
would have been a king snake, it probably would have been okay. Might have bitten me, but I probably wouldn't have had to have any venom.
Yeah, exactly. Whew.
But yeah, they don't label it. There was a guy here, and we tried to catch him for the longest time until the district attorney told us that it wasn't illegal what he was doing. He refurbished Airstream trailers to be chemistry labs. That is not illegal. But they were designed to make methamphetamine, and he would put in a solar generator, and you take the solar generator off the front of it and put it off to the side, so you didn't need to hook up to the grid, and you could just drive it out in the middle of the nowhere and make meth. And then they made a whole series about people who did that with the Breaking Bad. I was just like, have you been reading my case reports?
A little too close to, a little too close to home, huh?
Except that I never met anybody that was good at it like Walter White was.
Yeah.
No.
That was the fiction part. Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. There's a few here that it's actual chemists that are doing it. They're pretty scarily
But you
good.
can look it up on YouTube and they'll tell you how to do it.
Oh yeah, no, they've actually busted one actually in the last week or two that was putting out huge amounts in New South Wales. The reason it got busted is because New South Wales was in lockdown, and
You
they
can smell
they
it.
kept busting all these people close by, breaking the lockdown rules, and so they were like, where the hell are all these people A coming from and B going to? So they watched a little bit more closely and then busted one of the biggest meth labs there were, but found out that the guy used to actually be one of the CSIRO scientists that decided that he was going to make more money making crystal meth than he was being a scientist.
Yeah.
Well, because of my skill set for work on LinkedIn, I've gotten 6 letters from cannabis producing companies.
Sure.
Offering me jobs.
Sure.
As a compliance officer, because they need them now because they're trying to get FDA approval. And so they have to go through the whole compliance process. The thing is, I think it smells awful. And I really don't want to do it. So the last one that they sent me, I just thought I'd be a smart ass, which is never a good thing. Well, okay, yeah, it's often a good thing for me, but I answered back within the hour and I said, well, I'd love to take your offer of this enormous amount of money to be your compliance officer, but I really couldn't consider it unless I could have a company car of my own choosing, preferably a Volvo S90. And they got back to me before the end of the day and said that wasn't a problem.
Wow.
Oh.
That is not surprising.
And you had to come up with some other reason you didn't want it.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, no.
Wow.
I do. I think it smells terrible. I mean, I like cigars. My grandpa used to smoke cigars. I like cigars, but I think marijuana smells terrible.
But what are they doing with it?
You
though?
get used to it, I'm sure.
CBD oil, or are they
For that much money, I thought about it.
Yeah.
I mean, it depends what they're doing with it. If they're cracking it to the CBD oil, there is no smell.
No, I think
no, this is for the actual marijuana.
Medicinal and other.
Yeah, here there's like
if they're
massive
gonna sell it and they're
farms,
gonna
but they're
say
actually gonna crack it down to the CBD oil, so that's actually more valuable than just the marijuana, because it's actually used for, and it's actually legal here for being prescribed for pain relief in Australia. So it is big
yes,
money
it
in
is here
CBD
too.
oil.
Oh,
But
but
the actual
marijuana is legal
marijuana-
in many states in the United States as either recreational or medicinal. It
Right, and if they want to call
varies.
it medicinal, they have to be precise, accurate, and consistent when they say that it contains a certain percentage of THC.
Yeah, because I
And
used to
so
do
some of the
beverage
stuff,
quality
like,
assurance when I was younger, and there's also all the opioids made in Tasmania. There's all poppies grown in Tasmania, and all of the opioids worldwide come from largely Tasmania. That's where it's all grown. There's literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of acres of poppies. That's where it's all made, and then it's shipped out to the rest of the world to turn into your opioid drugs.
Wow.
yeah, we have a heck of a time with fentanyl. Even when I was at the end of my career, my daughter is working in law enforcement now, and the fentanyl pills are so small, they're so tiny, that you could have one
Yeah. they're
bag
really-
about this big.
Yeah. Yeah.
That had enough fentanyl to be worth probably $250,000.
They street value around about quarter to $500,000, depending on what its actual weight was, like how many
Right, how many milligrams
Yeah.
the pills
Yeah.
were, yeah.
depending on how strong the pills were, $500,000 to is
Right, so
what
the
it-
10s are less expensive than the 25s.
yeah, definitely. Definitely.
And
So
it's
if
also sold in patch form.
Yeah.
And they use it as a way to keep law enforcement out of their facilities. They'll have a thing where when you open the door, it poofs the thing of fentanyl at you. And if you're not carrying Narcan, you'll just die.
Mhm. Yep.
Because she got a medal for her uniform because that happened to one of the guys she was working with. He was first in, and she was the one that pulled out the Narcan and gave it to him.
First in here has to be dressed in full biohazard head to toe suit for that reason. They will not let you go.
Sometimes you have exigent circumstances and you have to open the door.
Yeah, they don't do it here anymore because there's been too many that have been really badly hurt and then they've sued for, obvious reasons because they're no longer able to work for, varying circumstances. So it's not done here. It's like literally they'd rather wait 20 minutes.
That would be
until-
lovely if they didn't do it here, but I know that they do.
Yeah.
Ladies, I think it's time that we say goodnight.
Yeah,
I
I
think
do
so.
too.
Very
You guys
good.
will sleep
Thank you.
well.
Good
Good night,
to see
ladies.
everybody.
See you on the 4th.
Oh,
Good night,
so
and
She finally jumped up here by herself. Say good night to everybody, India.
oh my goodness, so
Good
cute.
night, India.
She's like, just feed me. I don't care. No.
Yeah, pretty much. All right, thanks, ladies. Bye.
Good night, everybody.
everybody.
It was great chatting.
Bye.
Bye.
Take care.
Mhm.